WeatherTech SportsCar Championship on IMSA Radio.
It's a very warm welcome to a very pleasant Mid-Ohio sports car course as we're back in the racing groove, literally as well as metaphorically, on the IMSA WeatherTech SportsCar Championship for 2021. Hello there, I'm John Hindhoff, and delighted to say that joining me in the Haggerty Global Broadcast Centre is Jeremy Shaw, our VP Pit and Paddock reporter, VP Racing Fuel Pit Paddock reporter is Shea Adam, and we'll be taking you through this 2 hour and 40 minute competition this afternoon. The cars are already rolling behind the safety cars out on the circuit. We're right in the middle of Ohio, next to Lexington. That's the biggest town close by, at the beautiful Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. 13 corners, getting on for 2.4 miles, 2.25, 2.5 miles, with a variety of challenges for the teams and the drivers in particular. Uphill to the keyhole and then down through the kink at turn 3 towards China Beach. 4, 5 and 6 madness is what that's called round here. If you've not seen it before, you'll understand why. Then through the S's, down Thunder Valley towards the big, long, looping 180-degree right-hander at the carousel at the end of the lap. Peel off 3/4 of the way through that to go into the pit lane. Little kink through turn number 13 to get you onto the finish straight. And that's very important because it is only the finish straight. We'll start just after the kink at turn 3. As we take the green flag at the start of the race. The restart will start on the we will restart on the pit straight. Decent weather, 20 Celsius in the air and about 24 degrees on the track at the moment, and you will see something very odd here, because when we next come by the pit straight, the 2 hours and 40 minutes will start to count down, but we will then green flag the race a third of the way into the lap. It's a unique feature of the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. Let's check in with our VP Racing Fuel Pit and Paddock reporter Shea Adam, who'll bring us up to date with what's been going on. And there's been some busy teams, very busy teams overnight, Shea.
There have been, particularly the 60 Meyer-Shank Racing Acura hometown race for that car. Purple and black, pink and black colors on it. They have had an engine change. HPD seeing something on the data that they didn't love. They put a new engine into that Acura. So bit of precaution going on there. Dane Cameron running the car in morning warm-up this morning seemed happy with it. So that's the good news as far as they are concerned. The other car that has been, well, differentiated from when we last saw it is the 38 for Performance Tech. That Lmp3 machine is not the same car that ran earlier this weekend. Performance Tech came this weekend prepared with 2 Lmp3s to run in the IMSA Prototype Challenge and the IMSA WeatherTech SportsCar Championship. Well, Prototype Challenge race finished, and that is the car they have converted to be able to run in Lmp3 because of a comprehensive engine failure. And for a little bit more on that, I think Jeremy has some more info.
Yeah, indeed. It wasn't even as straightforward as that, unfortunately, because that team had a great run this morning in the IPC race. That was Lind running in second place and right on the leader's tail going into the final stages. Unfortunately, he got a tap from behind at a restart, and a wheel bearing failed shortly thereafterwards. So they've had to change the wheel bearing on that number. What was number 6, now number 38, but they'll be running the Motel 6 bodywork on their car, I think, during this race, but still with their regular sponsorship from Sentinel Spine Group and all their other regular sponsors. So it's been a very, very busy couple of hours now for that number 38 Performance Tech Motorsports team.
Porsche keys to the race. Well, it's a short lap, and there are places here where you have to go follow my leader. We've started the race now, but we're under yellow, so patience in traffic is super important. Being flexible, particularly on your pit strategy. This 2 hours and 40 minutes isn't just broken down into standard length stints. Pit stops, when do you take them? Is it green flag? How far back will you be? And are your pit crew a bit rusty? Is your driver going to get the car in? Right, we've not raced for a wee while. That's our Porsche keys to the race. We'll revisit them as we go through. It's a split start, so Harry Tincknell is now bringing the field of all prototypes round, so that's a dozen cars in DPI and LMP3 to the green flag. Philippe Albuquerque then, after his practice this morning, this is what he did 4 times in morning warm-up, drove to the left-hand side of the track, the revs rise, the green flag's in the air, and we're racing at the Acura SportsCar Challenge presented by TLX Type S at Mid-Ohio for the 3rd time of asking in the IMSA WeatherTech SportsCar Championship in 2021. And the pole man does his job. Harry Tincknell for Mazda Motorsports in the mostly white number 55 goes over the top of Madness down towards turn 6 with a bit of a lead. Philippe Albuquerque, that practice this morning paid off. He's held on to 2nd position. Then the red-white number 31 of Pipo Derani is in 3rd. Kevin Magnussen in 4th for Cadillac Chip Ganassi in that putty-coloured car in 4th position. Now the start for the GTs. Following in behind, Aaron Telitz for Vasser Sullivan. Can he get the start from pole? Yes, he can. Following him through the yellow and blue, number 96, Turner Motorsport, Robbie Foley, Daniel Morad, right in there for Allegra Motorsport in the Mercedes. That's the red, white and blue car with the yellow splitter on the front of it. Then the second of the Bumblebee, yellow and black Lexus. And then right in there, in 5th position, Paul Miller Racing with Roman DeAngelis for Heart of Racing, Aston Martin. That's your top 6. But there was a bit of a schmozzle coming down the hill to turn 6. It's a real pinch point here. Daniel Morad refusing to be intimidated, Jeremy, by the second of the Lexus. Frankie Montecalvo tried to make up a position round the outside. Daniel says, I don't think so, mate.
No, that's exactly right. And that was a good, nice clean start all the way through. That's really good to see. I think there's only one change, or a couple of changes of position. Number 60 car got ahead of the number 5 on that first lap, so Cameron ahead of Vautier. I think the only other position was further down in GTD. The number 39 car, Richard Heistand, the car barn with Peregrine Racing entry, the new Audi to the series this year, just sneaking ahead of Jeff Kingsley in the Compass Racing Acura.
Yeah, and Zach Robichon doing a good job as well. The FAF car starting a wee bit out of order after being out of technical specification, ride height infraction after qualifying, so they had to start at the back. And Zach Robichon already up to 10th there, so that's 4 positions he's made up in the opening moments of this race. At the front of the field, Harry Tincknell has made his bid for freedom in a car, Jeremy, that has pretty well always been good around here. The Mazda seems to like the twists and the turns. It's the smallest capacity engine with just 2 litres and 4 cylinders in the DPI field. Probably getting on for only about half as much of the rest of the cars. But it's a nimble car and it changes direction quickly, and that works well round here.
It does, doesn't it? And I lied, by the way, there was another change of position. Jared Andretti up into 2nd position in LMP3. He snuck ahead of John Bennett on that opening lap as well. So good start by the debutant here. Jared, of course, the son of John Andretti, sadly passed away last year. We really missed John, just a lovely guy. And of course, his grandfather, Aldo, died last year as well. It's been a really difficult 12 months or so for the Andretti family. But Jared, thrilled to be making his debut at this level this weekend and driving a lot in that car with Oliver Askew.
Yeah, and also since the last time we were on air for IMSA Radio and IMSA TV, we've lost Bobby Hunter as well, of course, and Lonnie Hunter was driving here earlier this weekend. It's been a tough time for those 2 American motorsport dynasties, and of course we pass on our best wishes and condolences to those 2 families who've been such a big part of all of our upbringings in motorsport. 1:13.6 at the head of the field. That's a decent clip this early on. We qualified, Jeremy, in an extraordinary quick time at the front of the field that harks back to the full factory, completely bonkers diesels of the ALMS era when we saw qualifying yesterday.
Yeah, it was magnificent. It was a really thrilling qualifying session. We thought that Philip Albuquerque had done enough to get the pole position, chance of just tumbling all the way through the session. And then Harry Ticknell nailed that final lap. And that's Kevin Magnussen coming into the pits in the Ganassi car number 01. That's very, very early. Must be a problem.
Drive-through. Is it a drive-through? I'm not seeing anything on the race control channel. It must have been a start infraction. Shea Adam will let us know if she's had he changed lanes before the start line. Is that what it's been called for, Shea?
That's exactly it, John.
Yeah, switches to the right before the start line. He's trying to get a drag down in behind Pipo Derani in the 31 car. A little bit of inexperience there, Jeremy, from the IMSA rookie here, of course. Immensely experienced in terms of his driving career. The nuances of different championships. Yeah. You've got to stay in your lane until the start line. And, of course, the start line is just beyond the kink at turn 3.
Yeah, well, that's a tough one to swallow. I mean, really rather unfortunate there. I feel. There's a kink there. He certainly wasn't gaining any sort of an advantage. But hey, look, the rules are the rules, and he wasn't aware of that. And it should have been, quite frankly, somebody of his experience should have been. So he's going to have some ground to make up. Really, shouldn't be that much of an issue. He's still able to rejoin ahead of all the Lmp3 cars, so he's just got a bit of ground to make up, and he'll have his tail up as well, no question about it.
Yeah, he is just going through turn 1 now. The back of the queue of the DPIs, Tristan Vautier, is actually at the start line, at the kink at the moment, so that's the distance that he's got to make up. He's got a bit of the leaders now have got a bit of traffic, so that Porsche keys the race, patience in traffic. I thought it might be just a handful of laps. We're on lap 5 at the moment, Jeremy, and already Harry Tinknell having to work his way through the GTD field. I like the split start because it keeps everybody out of each other's way, but it does mean, of course, you catch the back of the GT field a wee bit quicker.
That's right, he just completed 5 laps, and his best lap last time round was a 1:13.3. The race lap record here is a 1:12.292 for Juan Pablo Montoya. Quickest lap that time around, it was Dave Cameron running in 4th place in car number 60 in that same car, actually, the Acura. Dave Cameron just done a 1:12.6.
Yeah, I've got a feeling that this is going to be an all-out, no-nonsense sprint today. I mean, we say that even about the Formula 1 12 Hours of Sebring or the Rolex 24 at Daytona, but this next 2.5 hours is going to go by very, very quickly, and this is going to be a massive amount of concentration from everybody concerned. Just keeping an eye on Kevin Magnussen. He's actually in clear air at the moment because he hasn't caught the GTs yet, so keep an eye on his lap times in that Cadillac Chip Ganassi racing car. A 1:12.9 last time around was his best lap of the race. Harry Tinknell a 1:16.0 because he's in traffic, and behind him the 17.8. So he is going to catch up. The problem is then, of course, he's got to get through the same bit of traffic. As we often say, traffic giveth, traffic taketh away. So spot on 2.5 hours to go. Let's give you the rundown of what is going on in GTT. Vassar Sullivan, Lexus, RCF GT3 looking for 4 race victories in succession here at Mid-Ohio. Aaron Telitz leads from Robbie Foley by about 2 seconds. They've been split up as the lead DPIs have come through. Allegra Motorsports, Daniel Morad, another 3 seconds further back. He's come half a second on Monte Calvo in the second of the Lexus. It's number 12. Then Madison Snow in the Lamborghini, another 1.5 seconds or so. They're bringing up into little packs here in GT Daytona. Top 6, Roman De Angelis. He's only a 10th behind, so that's Lamborghini versus Aston Martin. That's a decent scrap going on. In LMP3, Gar Robinson, Riley Motorsports, the 74 car leads from pole by 1/2 second from Jared Andretti for the Andretti number 36 in second. He's got a 1.5 seconds on John Bennett for Core Autosport. half a second back to Dan Goldberg, and then another 3 seconds or so back to Lance Willsey and Jim Cox for Sean Creech Motorsport and Riley Motorsports. At the front of the field, Tinkler's just gone across the finish line and clocks the end of another lap. A 1:12.6 is his best lap of the race. That's very close to the fastest lap we've seen so far. He's got 5.4 seconds on Albuquerque in second in that black and blue number 10 Konica Minolta at number 10. Then Durrani in the red and white number 31. That's the Whelen Engineering Cadillac. And then another Acura, that's Dane Cameron in the number 60 car. He is looking at about half a second of a gap between himself and Pipo Durrani. That's how they stand, under 2.5 hours still to go. Nice clean start, already in traffic. What I'm seeing here, Jeremy, is at the moment from the driver's point of view, no rustiness at all from the long layoff that we've had since we were at Sebring racing last time in the IMSA WeatherTech SportsCar Championship. So that Porsche key to the race, certainly not applying to the drivers at the moment.
No, some good racing going on here, really fun, and you know, it's a physical workout around here. Unfortunately, it's not too hot today. It's overcast. It's about 68 degrees Fahrenheit local temperature, which is pretty comfortable here. You can get really sticky and humid at some stages during the summer. But what a good job Harry Tinkler is doing here, extending his lead. His team really struggled on Friday in practice. They came here with a setup they thought they would work. They didn't test here before the weekend, but they were working on their driver in the loop simulator at Multimatic Motorsports, the new one in Detroit these days, which they're using, in addition to the spectacular one they've also got up in Markham, Ontario, some of the Toronto. But they came here, that setup just didn't work. So literally, Larry Holt, who's the president of Multimatic, told me on Friday they threw the kitchen sink at the car. Thankfully, they didn't hit it, but they did hit the setup light, and the car was working beautifully yesterday, brilliant pole position, and now pulling out 5 seconds in the early stages, already 9 laps in the books here, and he's looking to put a lap on the first of the prototype 3 cars, the P3 cars, and in that P3 category, Dan Goldberg, by the way, who's driving number 38 car, has moved ahead of Lance Willsey, right on the tail now of John Bennett is Dan Goldberg. So it's a really good opening stint for Goldberg, the Floridian.
They threw the kitchen sink at it, and not only did they find a setup, but Harry Tinkler's got hot and cold running water there and an ice machine, which is really nice. Hello to Alan McNish, who I'm sure will be tuned in and watching. Alan, who has been looking after the career of Harry for quite some time, one of the boss men now at Audi. I wonder if we'll be seeing Alan running the Audi team. He runs the Formula E, the electric racing series that Audi, for the moment at least, are involved in. But Audi coming back with the car based on the new LMP2 chassis, DPI 2.0, DPI-H, LMDH, whatever you want to call it. It's the IMSA regulations that have been adopted as a global standard for the top category of sports car racing, that'll be integrated with 4 other sets of technological regulations to form LMDH in Le Mans and the WEC, and the hope is that everybody will come together and race in 2 different championships. So the news this week, if you haven't heard it so far, is that sister brand to Audi in the Volkswagen group, Porsche, have announced that Roger Penske's organisation will be running their version of that car in both IMSA and in the WEC from 2023 onwards. That's when we expect to see those cars from Daytona, debuting at Daytona and the Rolex in 2023. So exciting times for sports car racing. We'll start to hear more detail about the chassis that are going to be used by the 2 VAG teams that have declared at the moment, but also know that Bentley and Lamborghini are taking a very good look at these new regulations. The hot rumour is that Multimatic, who built the chassis that Harry Tinkler is in at the moment, will be getting the call, and Larry Holt's team will be getting the call from the Volkswagen brands to run the chassis, to provide the LMP2 chassis and do some of the aero work on the different bodywork sets for those individual manufacturers. more details on that to come, but very exciting times as we head into another new era of sports car racing, which includes customer racing, Jeremy, and I think that's very, very important, particularly for series like here in IMSA. I'm absolutely on tenterhooks to hear what comes next.
Yeah, me too. These are very, very exciting times for sports car racing in general, aren't they? And particularly, I think, here in North America, as Harry Tickler here works his way past the LMP3 leaders. It's now just not 2 cars, it's 3, because Dan Goldberg has got right up with the 2 leaders as Lance Willsey goes for a spin in turn 1.
Yeah, just lost it on the way through in that very distinctive red, white and blue, the stars and stripes Sean Creech Motorsport car. He'll be annoyed with himself for that. It's a big commitment corner at turn 1. Hello to Chris Humphreys, dropping us a line at IMSA Radio on Twitter. I've not watched the Mid-Ohio race for a while. Wow, the trackside marshals are going to be mad busy with this today. He's one of the Orange Army in the UK and sends his best to his colleagues on the flag stands and the marshals posts around here, and we salute all of our volunteers, of course, including the medical staff, the rescue workers and track services. A little bit of a mistake there for what is the second place. That was Jared Andretti, wasn't it, in the second place LMP2 car, just drifted wide coming through the carousel, and it's not cost him too much, Jeremy. I think he was trying to make room for a passing DPI.
Indeed, I think he was just being a nice guy there, staying out of the way of the leaders there some of the leaders in DPI, and it cost him a little bit of ground to Cigar Robinson, but he wasn't able to. He was able to hang on to that position just ahead of Dan Goldberg in that charging number 38 Motel 6 car.
So this is settling in very nicely. The times are settling down as well. Fastest DPI time, as I thought it might be, Kevin Magnussen for Cadillac Jip Ganassi. After that mistake at the start that saw him take the drive through, he's only 17 seconds behind the leader, and he's done a 1:12.8 as his fastest lap. He's just coming around to Jared Andretti, and he'll be the next car to lap the Dan Goldberg and Jared Andretti battle for second and third in LMP3. Just coming to the end of the lap now. That particular battle, and Kevin's not too far away from that. Meantime, the leaders that's still number 55. That's coming to the start line now through the kink, and now coming around again to more battling GT Daytona cars. Positioned still very much under dispute with the number 1 Madison Snow driven Paul Miller racing car. That's the Lamborghini, the red, white and black car, and right in his wheel tracks Roman De Angelis and the Carbahn Audi GT3 for the number 39 car. So those three having a cracking scrap at the moment on the far side of the circuit. Heading back now through turn 11, Jeremy. 3 very different cars. Well, I suppose the Audi and the Lambo are slightly more similar, but 2 mid-engine cars and a front-engine car. And great to see that Ross Gunn has joined the Heart of Racing team for the whole of the rest of the season.
Yeah, certainly is a very talented young English driver. Has been a factory driver for Aston Martin the last couple of years, getting the opportunity to come over here, join the Heart of Racing team for the long distance races. Did such a good job, they've invited him now to stay on for the full season in IMSA. So a great opportunity for Ross Gunn. This Aston Martin Heart of Racing team have been they've just done a fantastic job in recent events. Out of the last 7 races, they had 6 top 5 finishes, yes. And as competitive as GTD is, that's a really, really good effort. And coming into this weekend, 3rd in the points table, it's been a good start to the season for that team. And having Ross Gunn on board with another very talented youngster, the Canadian Roman De Angelis, they're going to be a stout pairing.
Shea Adam is our VP Racing Fuel Pit and Paddock reporter, and watching the battle at the moment very carefully at 5th position for GT Daytona. A slightly different qualifying procedure with 2 15-minute qualifying sessions for GTD this year. One that sets the position, the other one which is the pro drivers running for bragging rights and, more importantly, points. but a slightly different approach taken by the 5th placed car, leading this group of 3 that's coming across the line right now. Paul Miller Racing in those 2 sessions when we qualified yesterday, Shea.
Yeah, when Brian Sellers went out, he was basically the only car on track not on new tires. They sent him out on tires that pretty much had a stint on them already, which I believe that combined with the fact that they didn't run very much at all during the first practice session, an air jack failure that cost them a lot of running then, they should have an extra set of tires on everyone. So if we get to the end of the race and there is a late caution, the number 1 Lamborghini should be a little bit better off than everyone else. Now, to begin the race meeting, so beginning on Friday, each team was given 9 sets of tires if you're a DPI or an LMP3 team, 6 sets for GTD. We're not privy to know who has what left, but Paul Miller, they might be okay.
So they've used at least one fewer in that qualifying setup. It's not tight on tyres, Jeremy, and it's not meant to be. It's just to stop people throwing sets, 3-4 sets on it in a session and just going for fastest lap after fastest lap. But I don't think anybody's going to be massively disadvantaged with the IMSA tyre rules, are they?
No, I agree. I think you're absolutely right there. But it's certainly sensible. I think that's their tyres. This is not a particularly abrasive track, as we see Pipo Derani there struggling to keep Dane Cameron actually
round the outside at turn number 1, banging wheels together with Tristan Vautier. Cameron's gone through into 3rd position and is ahead of this battle at the keyhole now between the 2 Cadillacs, which has gone the way of the Mustang sampling JDC Miller car. So Pipo Derani has lost a couple of places and got turned around, actually, very nearly threw it off the track. That was Daniel Morad in the AMG number 28.
I don't think you can blame Morad for that. No. We just saw the onboard from Morad, and it looked to me like the number 31 car just pulled across his bows. He wasn't clear when he pulled across to the right-hand side to take the preferred line through the left-hand at turn 14. I don't think you can blame that one on Morad, and it's been a really difficult start to the season for Pipo Derani. He's been involved in a bunch of incidents, including a big one at Sebring last time out. And I was impressed by Pipo at the start of this race, because he could have pressed the issue and tried to get a position at the start, elected not to. I think there was just a slight misjudgment by the Brazilian.
And that's cost him some real estate. We've been running for 24 minutes, and we expect the leading cars in round about 10 minutes time. The teams have been playing their cards pretty close to their chest in terms of fuel mileage and how many laps they feel they can turn under full green. One thing that they have to keep mindful, Shea, is minimum drive times for the different categories.
This is our first sprint race of the season, and the minimum drive time for the prototypes, for DPI at the very least, has already elapsed. That was 10 minutes. So at any point in time, the cars can come into the pit lane, put their second driver in, and be good to go to the end. For LMP3 and GTD, the minimum drive time is 45 minutes. So we are still 20 minutes away from that window opening.
Yeah, and again, that's IMSA just making the guys on the pit wall, the team on the pit wall, work just as hard as the drivers behind the wheel. Great to see the bank sides at 4, 5 and down at 6 as well, with avid IMSA enthusiasts here this weekend. Thank you for supporting us, and thanks for all the support through this last 15, 16 months, which I know has been difficult for everyone. It's good to have had some motor racing in IMSA from last July, and fantastic to see the support, and thank you for all the Twitter messages as well, and Facebook, etc. As we've now got down to 2 hours and 15 minutes, Pipo Derani settling into a pace, but a pace at the moment, Jeremy, that is a 15.3 last time around, the slowest of all the DPIs. Do we think there might be a little bit of damage then, that is performance, that is affecting the performance of that Whelen Engineering Cadillac?
No, I think that was just a lap. It cost him a lot of momentum going across the start-finish line and I think that's plus he got overtaken by Tristan Gauthier as well. So I think it was on that lap that he set that particular slow time. So
okay.
I'm sure he'll be back up to speed. Well, I hope he'll be hoping he gets back up to speed right away. But it could be it was a pretty good clout on that right rear corner, wasn't it? But Dane Cameron...
Jeremy, he's just done a 12.9, his fastest lap of the race, so you were right.
Yeah. So, but I tell you what, Dane Cameron, having got past that car now, he's quickly closed up on Philip Albuquerque. So the two Acuras together in second and third positions. But Harry Tincknell, he's 10 seconds down the road.
Yeah, he doesn't need any intervention from the safety car at the moment. The battle that we were telling you about earlier on, Madison Snow, Roman D'Angelis, Richie Highstand, and those guys battling for 5th, 6th and 7th in the Paul Miller Lamborghini, the Heart of Racing Aston Martin, the Carbon Audi, that's still going on. And Zach Robichon has come to join that party as well. He's made up a whole handful of positions after that car failed post-qualifying tech on a ride height infringement. And the number 9, the Plaid Porsche from Pfaff, is right on the back of that battle.
You're right, John, up 5 places for that car. As we see here, a challenge in for the lead now in LMP3. Dan Goldberg, he's managed to find his way past Jared Andretti, and now he goes to the inside of Gar Robinson in turn 4. What a great run by Dan Goldberg.
That was a fantastic, a typical move here at Mid-Ohio, down into turn 4. China Beach right in front of you. If you get it wrong, very few people get out of that if you go across the grass and into that sand trap. You need more than a good wedge to get you out of that one. But that was brilliant stuff from Goldberg for Performance Tech Motorsport in the number 38 car. Nothing wrong with Gar Robinson's driving either. He was making it as difficult as possible, but within the bounds of legality. But right up there with them now as well is the 3rd place car, and that's the 36 of Jared Andretti. So top 3 are absolutely together now in LMP3 going through turn 1. The Wright Motorsport 16 teal blue Porsche ahead of them as they head up the hill to the keyhole. And this LMP3 category suits the American circuits, I think, so well. They look great, they sound phenomenal with the new Renus VK 56 engine in it. Every time you say VK, I always think of Renus VK, Jeremy, in this car. Yeah. It is the VK Nissan-based engine from that's a spec engine in this category. And although actually we've got all these years here, there are a choice of 5 or 6 different chassis. It just so happens that Ligier has been the most popular, but they look and sound fantastic here, Jeremy. But
having said that, Duquesne that won the Prototype Challenge race this morning, actually, by a very narrow margin. But you're right, there's no new Ligiers. Normally we have the 47 Motorsports team here, but not so this weekend. At least not in this series. They were running in the IPC. But no, it's a tremendous class, and it's a super battle going on between those 3. Dan Goldberg, a lot of experience in prototype cars over the years. He was a stalwart of the old Prototype Lights Championships, the old Elan Mazda powered cars for many years. He's made his return to racing pretty much this sort of level last year, dipping a toe in the water with Performance Tech again, which the team ran with before in the LMP3 series, the Prototype Challenge series, and now stepping up for Sebring with his debut in the IMSA WeatherTech SportsCar Championship, and quite clearly taking advantage of his track time this weekend and running this very same car this morning very nicely in the early stages, and now into the lead for the first time.
And as we mentioned in the Michelin Countdown to Green, that's a lot of work by the team just to re-prep the car, get it sorted for the different series, and it's little things like making sure you've got the right stickers, the right number panels, all that sort of stuff. So they've done a really good job in turning that around. Marco Barenswaard, who's in the Netherlands, great weekend for Dutch Motorsport with that win yesterday from Renus VK, says, what's Harry Tincknell had for breakfast? I have no idea. Some kind of raw meat, go faster juice, I have no clue. Marco, good to know that you're tuned in sound and vision over there in Europe, and thanks for all your kind comments and the information that you pass to us here at IMSA Radio on the Radio Show Limited network of channels. Harry Tinknell's already gone through and is heading up to the keyhole. Third place, Dane Cameron, trying to find a bit of room on the circuit as he goes through turn 1. I said this would disappear quickly, Jeremy. We're already coming down to just under 2 hours and 10 minutes to go. We've had 30 minutes of racing already.
You serious?
Yes, I know. This is mad. It's going to be this race. We're going to sit at the end of this. I will guarantee you, when we're in Michelin post-race tech, we're going to sit and say, that went by like a 25-lap sprint at Alton Park. It really is going to be like that.
Yeah, and it's been great. And this is the right number of cars for this racetrack too. If we had all GTLMs and LMP2s out here as well, it would quite likely have been a mess. But so far, I'm not speaking out of turn here, but it's been a really good, nice, clean race so far. With just one sort of
hashtag blame Jeremy when it all goes horribly wrong. Curse of the commentator in 10, 9. We're getting a bit of interest here at the carousel, but everybody being very respectful, with Dane Cameron sitting in behind the Ranch 74 second place LMP3, goes past the LMP3 leader and now is right in the wheel tracks of Philippe Albuquerque. Jeremy said he caught him up quite quickly, but there he could read the part number on the rear aerofoil. Durrani's in for tyres. Shea Adam has this VP Racing Fuel Pit and Paddock reports.
The driver's side door is open as well. I did not see a driver change happening, so I don't think Felipe Nasser getting into the car yet, but I could be wrong on that. 4 new Michelin tires going on that car. They did still have the stickers on them. Air jack comes out, just waiting on the fuel, so a perfectly executed stop by Whelen Engineering, and away goes that car. 24 seconds worth of fuel, so it wasn't quite empty, but clearly they were pitting him out of sequence to try and mix things up a bit. That is Nasser's helmet, by the way.
Right, so that was a driver change there. So we were talking about strategy. I wonder if they felt that where they were on the track, Jeremy, taking the pit stop. We're getting close to where we might have expected the pit stops to come. That was a 25-lap stint for Pipo Durrani, and I think everybody will be in within the next couple or 3 laps, won't they? From DPI.
How long are we into the race, are we?
Just over
2 minutes. Yeah, probably another 3 or 4 laps, I would think. I don't think they need to come in just yet, although Kevin Magnussen is following suit this time around.
Right, that's the Cadillac Chip Ganassi racing car. Shea Adam is watching this one.
Fuel tires and no driver change yet, so they're not putting in Renger van de Zande, who, by the way, one podium finish at Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course for Renger. He needs to set that right, I think. They are doing new tires, fuel, and Chip Ganassi's boys and girls with a perfect pit stop so far. I think they were looking at doing a windshield tear-off, but they didn't ultimately that soon in the race, and Kevin Magnussen back off.
Paul Miller Racing tweeting Madison, that's Madison Snow, absolutely silent on the radio. He's focused on keeping the number 23 behind. Plenty of teams with their socials, making it easier to follow endurance racing nowadays. Just for later on, by the way, the number of laps completed, the distance record at this on a 2-hour 40 race is 125 laps for DPI. Currently the computer says 127, so we are running at distance record pace at the moment, and I mean that's Harry Tinknell's pace, because the computer will take that from the leading car, and he's 11.5 seconds up the road now, and that's only going to get wider if the 2 cars in second and third, Jeremy, start to battle, and that's starting to happen now.
Yeah, how many laps ago? Just a couple of laps ago, that gap had already come down from about 10.9 to 7.7. And as you said earlier on, John, traffic giveth and traffic taketh away, and that gap has extended itself again. But Albuquerque has really got his hands full trying to stay ahead of Dane Cameron. Cameron just cannot find a way past those 2 cars, of course identical pretty much, and very difficult to overtake around here.
2 two-car battles going down to turn 6 at the moment. It's the battle for 5th and 6th in GTD. That's Madison Snow in the red, white and black. Paul Miller Racing Lamborghini. He's got the heart of racing. Aston Martin, the number 23, with Roman De Angelis right in his mirrors. And then behind them, and unable to get through at that point, that was the battle for the... now, what position is that in LMP3? Is that the battle for the lead? Yes, I think it is. Yes, it is. It's Dan Goldberg and Gar Robinson. So Gar has not let Dan Goldberg get away after he was passed, what, a couple of 3 laps ago. So interesting this to see the relative performance of the GT Daytona cars and the LMP3s. There's not that much difference in top speed. The prototypes probably have a little more downforce and on a clear track can take more speed to the apex of the corner and therefore make their lap speed that way. The crucial words there, Jeremy, were on a clear track.
Yeah, which basically isn't going to happen.
Not at the moment when there's two wide in front of them, 2 GTD cars, 1 Aston Martin Vantage and one Lamborghini are making a relatively narrow Mid-Ohio circuit look even narrower, and there's a little bit of frustration, I think, coming into Dan Goldberg's driving as he tried to have a look down the inside, the right-hand side of Roman De Angelis, going down to turn 6 now into Thunder Valley. Now, can he pull out to the right hand? It's just not long enough. It's not the car can't, the big V8 in that big lazy sounding rumbling V8 in that LMP3 car just can't get into its stride enough, and maybe down to turn 4. But the problem is it's such a slow corner at the keyhole that the extra grip that the GT cars have mechanically, they're not so aero dependent. They actually punch out of that corner as well, or even perhaps, Jeremy, a little bit better than the LMP3 cars. Oh, dives down the inside into the... Is it going to be both of them? Here comes Gar as well. Yes, and Jared Andretti's right there as well. So that was a very, very decisive move. It had to be from the leader in LMP3, excuse me, the Performance Tech Motorsport driver, Dan Goldberg, because he was getting frustrated and Gar Robinson was looking very racy. He'll come down the inside of Madison Snow down into turn 4. Jared Andretti's club back up on those 2 leaders, so the top 3 are back together again in LMP3.
Phew.
I know.
It's fraught stuff, isn't it? It's just brilliant. I mean,
we've got another 2 hours of this, Jeremy.
There's stuff going on
everywhere you look.
This racetrack, it's brilliant, absolutely superb. And Albuquerque really doing a nice job to hold on to that second position. Dane Cameron has a lot more experience around this racetrack than he does, and Dane Cameron has had success here in the past. He won the race here a couple of years ago with Juan Pablo Montoya. Ricky Taylor and Helio Castro Neves won in 2018 on the IMSA Series return to Mid-Ohio after a lengthy absence. Also won last year as well en route to the championship for Acura Team Penske.
Just looking, I think that in clear air, Philippe Albuquerque has a slight advantage over Dane Cameron, but in traffic, Cameron seems to be able to close in. Once they get a bit of open road ahead of them, unusual as everybody's spreading out, it does seem to be that car has a wee bit of an advantage, and that car's going to go through to the lead any second now, because we have our leader in the pit lane for Mazda Motorsport, Shea Adams.
This will be fuel and tires for Harry Dinknell. They're not taking him out of the car yet, and if you were Lena Gade, you wouldn't take Harry out of the car yet either. He's driving fabulously. So Oliver Jarvis getting a little bit of time to relax, but Harry is getting a new drinks bottle. The 2 times Le Mans winner in 2 different categories, keep in mind, looking for his first win at Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course to back up his first ever pole position, which he got about 24 hours ago. Clean of the windshield for Harry as well, so you can see all those cars as he laps them, waiting on the fuel. Wow, perfect stop by the Multimatic crew, and the Mazda is away.
Pressurized drink system there. That looked like one of the progressive systems. Hello to Dave and H. Circumstances of me, I haven't seen those guys for a wee while. GTD stops as well. Robbie Foley in from 2nd place in the 96 BMW M6 from Turner.
And this is interesting, John, because we're 5 minutes away from the window being open. Robbie Foley, a more than capable driver of driving beyond the minimum drive time. But you've got Bill Auberlen on the wall. You'd think Turner would want to put him into the car, especially since Bill didn't get very many laps in yesterday's race. No spoilers there. Robbie getting fuel, tires, and a nice bit of clean windshield for him, and hopefully now a bit of clean track. As also into the pit lane, we had the number 5, Tristan Vautier, in for Mustang Sampling. He stayed aboard, fuel and tires for that car as well.
It looks like the Acuras have got a little bit more fuel mileage here than anyone else. That could be bad news because they're not exactly slow. Albuquerque has gone through to the lead with Dane Cameron half a second only behind them. So the 10 from the 60, the blue and black from the pink and black. They're heading down into the braking area at turn 4 again now pointed at the sky and the scoring tower to driver's right over the top of turn 5 into the dip at 6, going past the Porsche. That's the Richard Mille Hardpoint EBM car, down to just one car this weekend as we're under 2 hours to go, and we have yet to see these leading 2 cars stop. So the leading car at the front of the field that stopped is Harry Tinknell for Mazda. He got new Michelin tyres, he got full service with VP Racing Fuel. He stayed in the car, and he is 44 seconds behind the leaders, who both now pitch at Adam.
And this is the number 10, Philippe Albuquerque, and the number 60, Dane Cameron. Question remains whether those 2 drivers will be taking cars back out again. From the pit lane, first into the box is Dane Cameron. He is going to be getting out and handing over to Olivier Pla, rookie, for racing at Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. Still weird to think about that. As far as the 10 is concerned, well, the passenger side door is open. I think that's just a drinks bottle change for Philippe then. So he is, staying aboard. I'll be comfortable in saying that. Fuel tires for both of the cars. Those look like new tires on both, so fresh Michelin's waiting on the fuel. It should be the Pla car that pulls away first because he hit his marks first, and he does, and then Albuquerque is released.
So status quo, well, if anything, it's advantage to the Konica Minolta Wayne Taylor Racing team, because that's a much bigger gap. But whilst all that was happening, Harry Tinknell went back through. He's already heading down towards turn number 4. So his lead, remember, it was about 11.5 seconds. His lead looks about the same. I'll give you a definite when they come through. Meantime, an off-track excursion for the 0-1 of Kevin Magnussen coming out of the keyhole. Now, Magnussen is showing 2 pit stops, but of course one of those was his drive-through penalty. But he is right in front there of the number 60. So is he in danger of going a lap down here? I think he is. So needs to, in fact he has gone a lap down, hasn't he, Jeremy? Because the 55's already gone by him. So Magnussen has dropped off the lead lap for Chip Ganassi. As Tinknell comes round again.
Stop, John, for the 60 car, which now is showing as last in class. So he might not actually have dropped off the lead lap.
That's what's confused me. Yeah, that's what's confused me. So, yeah, the Ollie Pla car has not had a good pit stop cycle. So my apologies there for misleading you. I thought they were going to come out in second and third. It's Felipe Nasr in the 31 Whelen Engineering race. Remember, Pete Durrani stopped a wee bit earlier than the other cars, and in fact stopped some 7 or 8 laps. 7 laps before everyone else, Jeremy.
That's right, and I think they're probably going to have to make one more pit stop because they're coming in after 40 minutes. Should mean it's 2 hours and 40 minutes, isn't it? So you should be able to make it on 3 pit stops, but I'm not sure that those 2 cars that came in early, number 31 and number 01, I'm not sure they're going to be able to.
Unless they were being extremely conservative. GT Daytona pit window it will be open next time by. The minimum drive time will have been completed. So let's see who's confident. Let's see who plays the tactics game. One of our Porsche keys to the race. Flexibility in your pit stops and when you take them. Green flag pit stops here. If you get them wrong and get on the wrong side of a safety car, can be very, very costly. Here comes the Lmp3. That is the number 54, John Bennett, from 4th place in class here.
Well, that explains why Colin Brown wasn't texting me back, because he is about to go to work. John Bennett qualified 2nd for today's race. He did a very good job in that opening stint to hold position and to go around and round and to keep the car clean for Colin Brown, because guess what? Those two guys have not won at Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course, and neither has Core Autosport. Kind of hard to believe. Fuel and tires and the driver change going on there. And immediately in front of them, in comes Bright Motorsport, and Ryan Hardwick misses his marks. They're going to have to push the car back. Now, this is the championship leading car for Patrick Long, who solidified that championship lead yesterday with qualifying points, fuel, tires, and Plummy himself climbing aboard that Porsche as well. But I'm wondering how it's going to affect the Core Autosport pit stop. Answer: it doesn't at all. Those guys were pros. Also into the pit lane, the number 14 Lexus. That is Aaron Telitz, who will be handing over to Jack Hawksworth, twice a winner at Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. And Jack is ambling aboard that car. Fuel, tires, and driver change for the Lexus as well.
They actually dealt with that really well, right? Because they got the fuel hose on, and once they realised the fuel hose could go on, the guys just went to work. Was it the most perfect parking in their pit stop? No, it wasn't. They were at an angle, but so long as the fuel hose went in, they knew they could get their pit stop done, and they just pushed it back maybe a foot. It cost them next to no time at all. Lexus pit stop going on here, Shea.
And it was nice and clean. Jack Hawksworth aboard now with his bright green helmet, and he is exiting the pit lane. Also in from GTD, we have Daniel Morad in the 28 Allegra Mercedes. Now, I'm not sure that Michael De Casado will be taking over on this stop, because he and Daniel both silver-rated drivers, and the plan was to leave Daniel in for a little bit longer. We've had the entire LMP3 class come down the pit lane. John Bennett triggered it. Well, now we've got Dylan Murray in the 91 Riley Technology. We've got Joao Barbosa in the 33. I believe that will be Oliver Askew aboard the 36 for Andretti. It's Felipe Fraga aboard the 74, and Rasmus Lind is in for the leading car for Performance Tech, the number 38.
Yeah, and Rasmus was awesome in that car. It's another young, talented driver making his way through sports cars at the moment. At IMSA Radio, hello to everybody following wherever you are around the world. At 90.3 FM around Mid-Ohio, XM392 this weekend across the United States. Our two audio services complemented by the global radio service on RS2, part of the Radio Show Limited Network at IMSARadio.com. And also, we've got sound with vision on IMSARadio.com. Hit the IMSA live video button there, and if you're in a territory that doesn't have terrestrial or network TV coverage, then you can follow along with no blocks or breaks. Thank you for spending your Sunday, whether it's morning, afternoon, evening, or for some of you in parts of the world, the early part of Monday morning. Thanks for being with us as we're heading down to an hour and 50 minutes to go, and the pit stops at the front of the field have not changed anything for Harry Tinknell, except, Jeremy, his lead. It was just over 11 seconds. It's down to 5.4 now.
Yeah, you're right. It was as much as 12.9, and last lap around it was actually down to 3.6.
Oh,
now
wow.
Up again this time. A good lap, a clearer lap this time for Harry, extended out to 5.5 again. But the number 31 car, having got that track position, is turning some good laps now, with Felipe Nasser having taken over for Peter Durrani. And he is actually edging away now from Philip Albuquerque in the number 10 car. Tristan Vautier is staying right with him. Ditto Kevin Magnussen, and Ollie Clark is going to try and make up the ground now from the back of the field in GTD after that slower last pit stop. Now, this first round of pit stops with DPI cars talked about the fact that 31 and 01 came in 6 laps before the rest of the field, 6 and 5 laps respectively before the rest of the field. They're going to be struggling to get to the end, I think, from there. 41 minutes. 41 minutes for the two Acura cars. So I think they probably took on a little bit more fuel than those other cars, most likely because they went longer on that first stint, therefore used up more fuel. I think they were just about to the limit of their range before they made their first pit stops.
So do you think that the other cars perhaps being a little bit conservative then? I mean, what's the Albuquerque car did 33 laps. All right, there's a little bit of messing around at the beginning on that, but do you think that potentially the Wheel and Cadillac they pitted slightly earlier than they needed to? Was that for track position? We talked about that in our Porsche Keys to the Race, Jeremy.
Could be. With number 54 car there, is that making another pit stop? Penalty?
Stand by, I'll get Shea to
that's
look at that.
Stop, I think, for that car.
Let's go to Shea, Adam, for this VP Racing Fuel Pit and Paddock report, and she has the news.
That was a penalty for running over pit equipment when leaving the box, so Colin Brown had to make another trip down the pit lane. Also serving a penalty was João Barbosa, wheel rotation while on the jack stands for the 33 strong Creech Motorsport. We've had a few GTV pit callers. Zach Deese is now in the number 12 Lexus, Frank Montalvo brought it in. Fuel tires and clean windshield. Ross Gunn is now in the IMSA debut for him with, let's see, Michael De Quesada behind him. So it was Michael who stayed aboard the Allegra Motorsport Mercedes. Mark Miller has taken over the Acura with the number 66 Gradient Racing. Mario Farnbacher and Andy Lally are in the other two Acuras, respectively, for Compass and Magnus. And there was another change. Can't remember it now that I'm under pressure. Come back to me on that one, John.
Yeah, you did very well. Very well indeed. Oliver Askew has got into the Andretti Autosport. That might have been what you were thinking, Shea, into the Lmp3 car. So I expect to see that car go very well indeed. In fact, he's just put the fastest lap of that car's race in at a 1:19 at 7. Needs to find about 7/10 to challenge the fastest lap in the LMP3 category. Hello to Sven. He says there's something about old school tracks in the US. Mid-Ohio now looks like Mid-Ohio 10, 15, 20 years ago. It seems European tracks get updates every couple of years with more tarmac runoffs or quote-unquote improved terms. Agreed, says Wickerbill. Not heard the words track limits once today. Who knew that a bit of grass could be a breath of fresh air? Especially for hay fever sufferers. Yes, very good. But you're absolutely right, both of you. Keep the comments coming in at IMSA Radio. And don't forget, the checkered flag tonight is the end of the race, but only the start of the conversation. The Michelin post-race tech show with the editorial driven by you at IMSA Radio, hashtag Michelin PRT. Get your submissions in as we go through the race. Something catches your eye that you want to talk about, you want clarification on, or you're not sure about, or maybe just a point arising from the racing that you've seen here at IMSA this weekend. The hashtag is Michelin PRT at IMSA Radio on Twitter. And Jeremy Shea and myself, when we get our breath back after this phenomenal race, we'll try and talk you through that at the end of tonight's race. Whew. Another 15 minutes has gone by, Jeremy Shaw, and it's another 15 minutes where we've got battles through the field, and in this time it's for third in DPI. At the keyhole now, the black and blue number 10 with the grey and gold number 5. That would be Philippe Albuquerque in the Acura, and Tristan Vautier, who started that Mustang sampling JDC car, and they are absolutely together working through traffic down towards Madness now.
They are, but they're still about 7 seconds behind Felipe Nasser, who's flying along there in that second place car at the moment. Just looking at LMP3, boy, the three leaders came in pretty much, well, not quite nose to tail, but certainly pretty closely together. Not the case when they leave the pits. Felipe Fraga, who's taken over from Gar Robinson, came into the pits in second place, now has a lead of over 12 seconds, actually down to 10 now, because Rasmus Lind in second position, who's just set the fastest lap of the race so far in LMP3, and 1:18.3. Oliver Askew is in third position. He's just taken his best lap so far, 1:18.8. and he's about 14 seconds behind in third position. Colin Brown, having made that penalty stop, behind Askew in fourth position. So there's 26 seconds between the first three, and then Colin Brown right with Oliver Askew, and Dylan Murray, having taken over from Jim Cox, number 91 Riley Motor Sports car, is about 14 seconds farther back down the road.
Yeah, and that penalty pit stop for running over pit equipment. Rusty in the pit. Well, perhaps a little bit, perhaps just a little bit under pressure. It's very tight in that class at the moment in LMP3. Hello to Cooper McNeil, who has survived the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune of the weather at the Österreichring this weekend for the latest round of the European Le Mans Series. Started in sunshine, had rain and hailstones, and then it dried up again, but then rained again just before the end when everybody was on slicks. So a 4-hour race that had 4 seasons in one day. Cooper, nice to know that you're tuned in, and we'll be happy to see you back in the WeatherTech Porsche, of course, in GT Le Mans when that class returns to the IMSA WeatherTech SportsCar Championship. Wish you all the best there. And I'll say I hope you enjoyed that run today. I know how difficult it was with people throwing cars at the scenery. At one stage, pretty much all of the prototypes were off at turn 7 when I was keeping an eye on that, and motorcycling at Le Mans as well. At IMSA Radio, if you want to get in touch with us. No chance of bad weather here, is there?
Nope, don't even bring it up.
Okay,
nope.
That's, well, certainly not hailstones, to be honest. 55 leads. Mazda Motorsport, 6.3, just easing out for Harry Tinknell. Built up a decent lead before the pit stops, but has been pulled back by Felipe Nasr. Philippe Albuquerque now establishing himself in third. Has pulled out 1.3 seconds on 48. Kevin Magnussen overcoming that penalty early on for being out of line at the start. The number 1, which is the GTD Paul Miller Racing car, has not yet pitted, but by dint of that, Jeremy, going very, very long into this race, is leading in GTD. So all of that defending that Madison did earlier on has actually paid benefits. I wonder if he was running to a fuel number earlier on as well.
I think probably so, but these 3 cars at the head of the train here in GTD. Number 1 of Madison Snow, number 9 of Zachary Robichaud, number 39 of Richard Highstand, who's hanging on really nicely there for Carbon with Peregrine Racing. These 3 cars running 1, 2, 3 in a class. None of them have pitted. Also yet to pit is Rob Ferriol, who's running in 6th position behind the first of 2 cars that have pitted. Jack Hawksworth taken over from Aaron Tielitz, number 14 Lexus. He leads Robbie Foley. Still, he didn't hand over that car to Bill Oberlin, by just 2 seconds now. So that gap has come down considerably since the pit stops. The number 14 over 96, then Ferriol, then Zach Veach in the next to Lexus is behind him Michael De Quesada, who is ahead of Ross Gunn, number 28 ahead of number 23 as they were before the pit stops.
Yeah, this is building up quite nicely. Shea, pit stop times, a little bit of differences, but not too much in terms of people in and out of the pit lane.
Well, Jeremy was wondering about the Lmp3 Gaps, and the answer is, in the time that they spent on the pit lane, it was 63 seconds for the lead car. That's the 74 with Felipe Fraga. It was 74 seconds, so 11 seconds longer for Rasmus Lind in Performance Tech. And it was 84 seconds for the 3rd place car, the Andretti Autosport. Now, we could say knocking the rust off for Andretti, but of course, this is their first race in this championship, so they're still figuring it out. And that was their first ever pit stop, so can you really blame them?
Yeah, been running in the Prototype Challenge, which is the single category, or the single class championship for those LMP3 cars. A little bit more hectic along the pit lane. But yeah, good point, Shea. Thank you for that VP Racing pit and paddock report. So an hour and 40 to go. That's your first. There you go, Jeremy. That's your first hour gone.
Yeah, not quite though. Still, Well, just okay, you're right, fine. Just coming up for the first hour.
2,
so
1,
48 laps will be completed very shortly by our race leader. Continues to be Harry Ticknell, led from the start. He gave up the lead for 2 laps when he pitted, and the 2 Acuras with Albuquerque ahead of number 60 came in and led a couple of laps, but the number 55 Mazda has been out front ever since. Lmp3 is at the back of the field. Hard to say that in DPI, in 6th position, and he's chasing after Jan Magnussen and Tristan Vautier and Philippe Albuquerque. Those 3 cars battling over 3rd, 4th and 5th. And Pla, he's fallen back a little bit. The gap was about 2 seconds to the trio ahead of him. Now it's nearer 4.
Yeah, 18.5 seconds away from the lead, that car. So all is far from lost there, but need to keep an eye on that. And you know, we've seen, haven't we, all very well. Harry Tinkler's just put in a 12.5, a 1 minute 12.5.49, which is his best lap of the race, and only 0.3 away from the very best lap of the race, which was Kevin Magnussen's earlier on when he was in clear air. But we've seen people doing 17s and 18s when they're in traffic, so that 18 seconds can disappear if you catch traffic a couple of laps in the wrong place, Jeremy, where you lose 3, 4, 5, 6 seconds in a lap because there's just no way to get by.
Yeah, agreed.
So where do we think we are then? Let's with the first pit stops done by everybody. This is now we now have to start thinking about fuel management, don't we? And these teams will have been thinking about fuel management, Jeremy, since the drop of the green flag. In essence, it looks like it's an advantage to the Acuras because they went longest, but only by a couple of laps. And you would think that the Whelen Cadillac is slightly worse off because they went a lot shorter. But then you look at what the Mustang sampling Cadillac did, and that did sort of the same as the Mazda, and that was only a couple of laps shorter than the 2 Acuras. Yeah. So there was clearly something that brought that Whelen car in earlier than it really needed to be. Whether that was strategy or people wasn't happy with the tyres and he just wanted to get out. Hey, he might have had cramp. We've seen that in the past where a driver cramps up and he says, get me out, I'm going to start losing time. If that's the case, we'll see him back and fired up later on in the race, because if we know anything about people, that's not the way he wants to drive.
Yeah, no, I would be surprised if they made another driver change in this race, John. A couple of hours or so for Nasser isn't a problem for somebody his experience. He's in the groove now, driving beautifully. People, of course, he had that little bit of a coming together, did he not, with the Mercedes? And so maybe that caused a vibration or something that he wasn't happy with to bring that car in. Here's the first of the 4 cars that have not pitted thus far in GTD. Rob Ferriol in with number 88 to hand over to Catherine Legg.
Chip.
It is fuel, tires, and a driver change as Rob Ferriol is helping Pat Legg get belted in. I believe this is a slow stop because it looks like the fuel probe has already been pulled out. Let's see, the door's shut. Cat looking like she's pumping the brakes a little bit, maybe. Fuel probe is out, and away goes Catherine Legg. This is the first time that these two have shared the car alone this year. They were co-drivers at the Rolex 24 Hours of Daytona, but then Cat sharing with Christina and Bia for the Sebring at 12 Hours. When Cat now leaves the pit lane. By the way, Owen Hayes is the brain on the pit box for the 88 Hardpoint EDM Porsche. That's a pretty nifty planet to have trying to think things out for you.
Yeah, that is some processing power that they have there. One of the many unsung heroes that are up and down the pit lane, Jeremy, in all kinds of racing, and particularly in IMSA, because you've got to be thinking about 126 different things at the same time. Owen Hayes spent a very long time with Porsche, with his own consultancy now, and he's probably forgotten more about running race cars, and particularly rear-engine Porsches, than most people will ever know.
Yeah, good point. And of course, we talked about the fact that the Audi, it was who had the fastest lap here, race lap in a sports car around Mid-Ohio 13 years ago now, 2008. Well, back in that era with the P2, the Penske Porsche RS Spiders, Owen Hayes was one of the engineers on those cars. And talking of the RS
Forgotten
Spider,
about that, Jeremy, yes.
Yeah, talking of the RS Spider, Roger Penske himself had a run in one of those cars early this week.
Not just one of them, his own version of it. He was allowed to buy one.
Yeah, at M1 Auto Course in Detroit. It's only literally spitting distance from his office, I believe. And Roger is going to be driving that car. He's been invited to Goodwood Festival of Speed. He's never been able to attend before, but he's going this year, and he's taking that car with him. So he wanted just to get a feel for that car before he took it up the hill at Goodwood. That's going to be a thrill for Roger.
I know that Porsche are very good at putting... I mean, that was great because it's great PR and... social media for the Penske Porsche LMDH global prototypes. I've been told by Andrew Cotton of Race Car Engineering is what we should be calling it. I like that, Andrew. Many different versions of prototypes, but the IMSA version, the IMSA regulations are the DPI hybrids that will come along in 2023, and a great opportunity to garner a little more publicity. However, that might have been more significant than we realised, because, and as I say, Porsche are not averse to throwing us a wee curveball once in a while and seeing who bites. But I have heard rumours that Porsche Spider V8 engine is being considered as the motive power unit with the hybrid system, with the spec hybrid system for that new Porsche LMDH, the DPI 2.0 regulations in 23. Audi going a different way, potentially with the DTM 4-cylinder turbocharged engine, but that could be, as I say, slightly more significant than we realised that Roger had his version of that car out recently. Shea Adam, we've got GT Daytonas including an in and out for the class leader.
Yeah, and Larry is aboard the Porsche, so FAF fans rejoice all over the world. The Belgian waffle part is added to the maple syrup magic of the Canadian team. Hey, I can't take credit for that one. I think it was Larry who came up with it. But Lawrence Vantor has never lost a race at Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. He's raced here in 2019 and 2018, winning the GTLM class in both. Zachary Robichon doing a great opening stint, staying out until there was 1 hour and 34 minutes left on the clock. So that was a good long stint, the last of our GTD cars to make the pit stop, because slightly before we saw this course on the pit lane, we had the #1 Paul Miller racing Lamborghini. It was Madison Sellers bringing the car in from the lead.
Madison Sellers? It was Madison Sellers, wasn't it?
Yeah, thanks for that. Madison Snow. Hi, Melanie and Martin and Dee. It is Brian Sellers who has taken it out, although, he is practically a family member of the Sellers clan, so I'm not too far off on that. And Jeff Westphal climbing aboard the Carbon Audi, number 39, fuel and tires for both of those cars. I love that Jeff Westphal finally in this car, because he let the program slip when we had him on IMSA Radio back at Daytona, if you remember.
Right.
So, yeah, congratulations, Jeff. It's finally come to fruition.
Yeah, very good. Very good indeed. What was it that I heard on IndyCar when two drivers' names got mixed up yesterday? I'll have to rethink about that, but Madison Sellers I like a lot. So that's Madison Sellers and Brian Snow in that particular car, and they've dropped down to 9th position. Fabulous run, by the way, by the FAF Porsche to get up there, and they've put themselves right back in the mix after starting from the back of the field. Now, of course, Lawrence Vantor is going to drop back down again after that pit stop, but he will certainly run to the end now in that car. So having started dead last in GT Daytona, I expect to see that car run to the end, and run to the end, Jeremy, very quickly indeed.
Yeah, absolutely right. And the Porsche, by the way, coming into this weekend, there was a few small tweaks to the balance performance in GTD. The Porsche 20 kilos added to that car. The Acura is actually able to shed 10 kilos as well coming in for this round. So the Porsches didn't seem to slow them down, because Patrick Long set a blistering lap yesterday to be fastest in the points scoring GTD qualifying session. Again, not going to get into that. But so clearly the car is still fast around here. That was a brilliant lap by Patrick, and he was absolutely thrilled to put one over on Lawrence Vantor and outpace him during that qualifying session. That was a big feather in his cap. One long-time Porsche factory driver, and another pretty long-time factory Porsche driver, Lawrence Vantor. By the way, Harry Tickler's really put his foot
He
down.
certainly has.
Talk about that gap being around about 6 seconds, but it's now over 11, because on that 48 he turned his new best lap of the race in 1:55 by 1:12.54. Last time around, a 1:12.53 for Harry Tickler.
Lexus going slowly. Lexus going slowly. And that looks like a problem for the left rear on the number 14, Jeremy. And Lexus have an unrivaled history here with the last 3 races going to them. Now, there's air in the Michelin tyre. That's suspension damage, or the rear wheel isn't fastened on properly to that number 14 car, and it's losing a lot of time as it comes through to turn 11 right now. And well, what a shame. It was having a good run. This is Jack Hawksworth. He was in second place for Vasser.
He was leading.
He was leading. Yes, sorry.
Yeah.
Well,
about 5 seconds.
He was scored across the line as second to Robbie Foley last time around. So, my goodness, where did that start?
At start-finish line. It wasn't at start-finish line.
It wasn't
start-finish line.
Right. Yeah. Oh, it was down at turn 4, Jeremy.
Correct.
Something's broken down there, and he's dropped an awful lot of time. Can't buy luck at the moment, Jack Hawksworth, Jeremy.
Unbelievable. He and Aaron Tielitz super fast. They were great lap yesterday by Aaron Tielitz to qualify the car for the Motul Pole Position Award. They didn't get the maximum points because they weren't quick into the points scoring session.
I don't think that's a flat tyre, Jeremy. I really don't. I think there was air in that tyre. I think that's a tie rod or a wishbone or something like that. They're looking underneath the left rear. This is definitely not a tyre. There was air in the Michelin tyre when it came off. Shea Adam is watching on here.
Yeah, all 4 of the mechanics that are over the wall are currently in the wheel well, or looking as close to the wheel well as they possibly can get. I agree with you. That did not look like a tire issue. That looked like something gave out, because Jack Hawksworth had been out of the pit lane for 24 minutes on that stint. The other thing that comes into consideration now, they were putting sticker tires onto this car. So if it can go back out, which I'm not entirely sure that it will, I think they're putting the tires back on to roll it back behind the wall. But if it could go back out, they would be using up their last set of new tires, and then they would have nothing for the end of the race.
I think that car is going to drive very gently and very slowly and turn hard left, because when that left rear tyre went on there, Jeremy, it was wobbly, and that's not what it's... I am not a suspension technician by any stretch of the imagination, but tyre wobbling when thrown on, that's going back behind the wall, Jeremy, isn't it? I think so.
Yeah, that's
bad luck.
Really, really unfortunate for that team. They had no luck towards the end of last season. They led the championship for most of the last year. They did win the WeatherTech Sprint Cup Series for GTD, but they were looking really good to win the overall championship as well. And then everything that possibly could go wrong in the last 3 or 4 races.
Well, that has given the advantage to another front-engined car, being the Turner Motorsport BMW M6 GT3, currently in the hands of Robbie Foley, who's been in that car since the start. They came in just before the minimum drive time, around about 5 minutes before that was elapsed, so Robbie is still out there, and he has got a 21.5 second gap between himself and Zach Veet in the other Lexus RCF. If they're going to win 4 in a row, it's going to have to be the 12 car. 9 seconds further back, Heart of Racing Aston Martin. So once again, with the Mercedes in 4th, Michael de Quesada for Allegra, we have the front engine GTD cars in the top 4 positions here at Mid-Ohio. What is it about this circuit that suits the front engine cars? Now, in fairness, the engine is pushed quite a long way back, but even so, mid and rear engine cars, they do very well here, but not as well as the front engine cars. And I'm not certain of the dynamics of that, but it does just seem to be the case. The Vasser Sullivan Lexus then, the 14 in its proper pit, which is behind the paddock, and they can work with more people on there. I wonder if they'll take that car get that car back out. Meantime, at the front of the field, we have pit stops starting again for the next round. And as it was the 31 that started last time, Felipe Nasr is in the pitch after a 34-lap run. Shea Adam.
Fuel and tires for Felipe Nasr, and it is going to be nice and clean from the Whelen Engineering crew. This is exactly how they practice it. Waiting on fuel 27.28. So that was more fuel than they took on the last time when it was stationary for 24 seconds. The maximum fuel tank load, if a car is stationary for 30 seconds, then that's a full tank of fuel. So they did a slightly short fill on the first one, and again, not completely full on the second.
They didn't need a full fill because they only did 25 laps the first time round, Shea. That was the tactics that we were talking about there. So that, under full green flag conditions, was a 42-minute stint from out to back in again for that car. So that's much more, Jeremy, what we expected. So that just underlines the change there after just 25 laps for Pipo Derani when he went out. So that car can do the same sort of lap numbers as the other cars around it. They chose, for whatever reason, or were forced into making that shorter first stint.
Yeah, I think they made that first stop as soon as they possibly could. We've got 84 minutes remaining in this race, 42 minutes stint, then another 42 minutes till their final stop, and then 42 minutes to the end. If there's caution periods, that'll help them. If there aren't any caution periods, then they should be able to make it from there. And ditto, the number 5 car, this is a slightly shorter fill for this number 5 car. And they were about 10 seconds behind the number 31 before this round of stops.
In and out for the Mustang sampling Cadillac, Shea Adam. That looked like a pretty clean stop. What should be determining the length of these stops, of course, is the fuel fill. It's not like Formula One, where 120 people seem to be working on the car and it's 1.9 seconds, and they don't put fuel in, of course. But the idea is that you get the tyres done and even the driver change done before the fuel hose comes out. And if you do that, no matter how long the pit stop is, that's a good pit stop, yeah?
Yeah, exactly, and that was a very good pit stop because they changed the driver as well. Rookie to Mid-Ohio, Loic Duval, again, kind of ridiculous, a world endurance champion and a Le Mans winner, rookie to this track, but hey-ho, Loic is out on track now, and that was 2 seconds, I'll call it 3 seconds longer of a stop than the 31, which pitted a lap before, so that makes sense. That all adds up in my book.
So the rest of the DPI cars should be coming in a moment, Jeremy. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, the number 5 car came in on the first round of pit stops. He came in 6 laps later than the number 31 car. This time, just 1 lap later. It had 5 laps of fuel on board, and this stint was for number 5 car 31 to it was 29 laps for the number 5 car.
Yeah, that's interesting, isn't it? Because they went longer than that. They went 2 laps longer than that on the first stint. So again, what we're looking.
He did 31 laps on the first stint for the number 5 car, and now 29 on his second stint. Yeah,
so again, though, that they're looking at time, aren't they? They're looking at time. You mentioned how much time there was left, 84 minutes, thereabouts. You can split that in half with 1 more pit stop and get to the end.
Right.
Yeah. We see this in the Nürburgring races all the time. There's more than one way to get to the end. You can choose to do a short and 3 long, or you can choose to do 4 stints of around about the same amount, and it kind of works in a similar way here. There's different ways. It all has to add up to 2 hours and 40 minutes, and if it adds up to 2 hours and 35 minutes, it's a bit like Mr. Mikoba, isn't it? 2 hours and 42 minutes, happiness. 2 hours and 36 minutes, complete despair. That's how it works out. How's the number 01 car going? Well, Kevin Magnussen is on a very long run in that car at the moment. So whether he's been saving a wee bit of fuel, he's been out 44 minutes in that car. And in comes Harry Tinknell after just on 40 minutes share in the leading Mazda. And I think we'll probably see Harry jump out here.
So halfway time, yep, they are sharing their toys nicely down at Mazda. I'm very pleased with that. Harry Tinknell out. Oliver Jarvis climbing aboard the Mazda. And Oliver is very nifty here at Mid-Ohio. He's been on the podium before in a Mazda. He knows how to get things done. Fuel, tires. Let's see if they give him a clean windshield, as in front of them, they do have a pit board down for somebody else. I'll keep an eye on who that is. Is Kevin Magnussen also into the pit lane? K-Mags is out. That means it's Renger van de Zande time. So step back from the fences just a little bit if you are indeed trackside, as Oliver Jarvis heads back out, and we wait for the Chip Ganassi Racing Cadillac to rejoin as well, but that should take a moment longer. I'll let you know about that stuff if there's anything wrong with it, but I do want to give an update on that 14 Lexus, thanks to Aaron Telix, who got back to me and let me know it was a failed pickup point on that 14 Lexus, the left rear, that caused that car to go back behind the wall. And now the mechanics are working to try and get the car back out. But at this point in the day, any hope of another 14 win, well, that's off the charts.
VP Racing Fuel Pit and Paddock report from Shea Adam. Renger van der Zande diving up the inside of the number 44 Andy Lanny Magnus with Archangel Acura at the keyhole. Renger, you know, when you go to work, when we did such things and went to the office, and you'd get to the office and you'd maybe make yourself a cup of coffee, or you'd stand by the water cooler, chat to the guys, find out what they did at the weekend, you know, maybe read some mail or some newspaper before you got yourself into your day. Racing drivers don't do that, and certainly Renger van der Zande doesn't do that. He was into his work the moment he got into that 0-1 car, having taken it over from Kevin Magnussen. He is up to speed. Now, round about a minute behind the leader. That's going to come down a bit because that hasn't updated for a wee while, but we'll keep an eye on that. But still on the lead lap, therefore, Jeremy, all of the DPI still very much in the game here.
Oh, very much so. Yes, indeed. It's, you know, the number 55 car came in to this round of pit stops with actually 11th second lead on the lap before the stops over number 31. The number 10 car was next, another 10 seconds behind. And the number 10 and the number 60 just lost a bit of ground in the last couple of laps. Ollie Clark had closed up onto the tail of that little battle between the 10, the 5 and the 0-1 before this round of pit stops began. Just lost a fair chunk of that ground. Now nearly 5 seconds behind. But the two Acuras are the last, have yet to make their second pit stop. What that means, of course, is that they will need less fuel on their final pit stop of the day.
Yeah, I'd expect them in next time around, Jeremy, if they do something like what they did the first time. Now, all right, there was a formation lap and a bit, but ultimately they should be due next time all the time after 33 laps for those two on their first full tank of VP Racing fuel. The battle, by the way, that Jeremy was talking about there, that was going on between the 0-1 and the 5, the Cadillac Chip Ganassi Racing and the Mustang Sampling car, that's still on. It's Renger van der Zande versus Loic Duval now for 5th and 6th. They are right together, Jeremy.
Pit stop. That's right. Yeah, the change of position since the pit stops. They came in the order 5-0-1. Renger van der Zande having that car stayed out 3 laps longer, and it's come out ahead of the number 5 car. And as we've seen, track position here is really, really important.
Yeah.
The other interesting thing about the round of pit stops is, once again, the Mazda's lead massively reduced over number 31 car. Before the pit stops, it was 11 seconds between number 55 and number 31. Number 55 car stayed out 4 laps longer. The gap between the two of them last time around was 3.9 seconds. It's now a second and a half.
Yeah, and just seen a pass for position in GTT, so let's report that. That was Jeff Westphal going up in the 9th ahead of the Mark Miller driven Gradient Racing. Congratulations to Mark and his new wife Tabitha. Got married in the break. So whilst we were all watching other motor racing and worrying about IMSA going back, he actually made a life change. They both did, and we wish them all the best on that. And that number 66 Gradient Racing car, former Mike Shank Racing car, and a Mike Shank Racing car with a bit of provenance. So that car has got some pace. I think that was the 86 car, Shea, wasn't it, last year?
Well, the Gradient Racing car was the 2020 championship winning car for Mario Farnbacher and Matt McMurray. And the 76 Compass Racing car, currently driven by Mario Farnbacher, was the 2019 championship winning chassis for Mario Farnbacher and for some guy named Trent Hinman. So there's a lot of valuable cars out on track right now for Mario.
Cars that have a bit of history in IMSA racing, and nice to see them living and continuing to fulfill their racing car destiny. Big gaggle of cars going through turn one. Danger time for the leader as well, for the leader having stopped, because that's Ollie Jarvis who's having to pick his way right through that. And as Jeremy said, the big lead has disappeared, and Felipe Nasr is just a couple of lap cars between himself and the leader. Off on the side of the road there was that Compass Racing Acura, which I always think looks like Lightning McQueen at the front of that car. It always looks like it's smiling, but it's come back on again as Ollie Pla pits from the sharp end of the field. Jeremy, go ahead.
Yeah, from second position. He just turned that car's best lap of the race last time around, before he brought that car onto the pit lane. He was about 5 seconds behind Philippe Albuquerque, who remains out on the racetrack yet to make his second stop of the day.
So that's 2 more laps than they did on their first stint. Now granted, that's 2 more racing laps, but there were a couple of formation laps, let's not forget. But that's really good fuel mileage by the 2 Acura. Shea Adam, what's going on down in the MSR pit?
Fuel tires and a windshield tear-off for Olivier Pla. He is not getting out of that car, and good luck trying to extract him. But when we get the 10 in, I do expect there to be a driver change for the Wayne Taylor Racing Acura, because that car was started by Philippe Albuquerque, and Ricky Taylor has not had a chance to play yet today. We've only got one other starting driver still out on the track. That's Robbie Foley in the 96 Turner Motorsport BMW, but I don't expect to see him in for a while yet, as Philippe Albuquerque does pull into a pit lane this time by. So fuel tires and potentially driver change, as it's Ricky's turn to play.
So who has gone through into the lead this time? That'll be Ollie Jarvis in the 55 Mazda, but without the gap that he had before. It's just a couple of tenths of a second, and as expected then, here's the other Acura in, this time from Cunningham and Alder, Wayne Taylor Racing, Shea.
And it is Ricky climbing aboard, fuel tires and a windshield tear-off. Yes, they did decide to give Ricky a bit better visibility. I always like when they do that, when they change drivers. It's like giving him a clean sheet, and you're not having to suffer any of the qualms that your co-driver had to deal with. And this being a sprint race, there's no excuse for needing to leave the tear-offs on. Very good stop by Wayne Taylor's boys and girls. 55 seconds in the pit lane, considering that Oliver Jarvis, who pitted, let's see, when was that? 7 minutes ago? Spent 2 seconds fewer? That's super impressive fuel economy from the Acura.
Yeah, that's very good, because that again means they were putting a lot of fuel into that car, Jeremy. Absolutely right. You're listening to IMSA Radio, watching IMSA TV, doing both at the same time perhaps, but you don't have to, because the audio and the video are synced perfectly at imsaradio.com. If you're outside of a territory that has a TV, if your territory doesn't have a TV deal, you can watch our international video feed at imsaradio.com. 90.3 around the track here at Mid-Ohio, XM392. Good to have your company wherever you are. At IMSA Radio, please, and use the hashtag MichelinPRT for post-race tech. We'll be taking your questions, comments, things that you've noticed, points arising from this race, which is just about, well, just into its second half at the moment, with an hour and 11 minutes still to go. Our pit and paddock reporter for VP Racing Fuels is Shea Adam, and in the Hagerty Global Broadcast Centre, it's Jeremy Shaw and me, John Hindhaugh. So another set of pit stops, Jeremy, for the front class of the field, and once again, the Mazda pace advantage that it has on those long runs is disappearing in the pit stops.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to be too concerned about that. They've taken on more fuel at each of the stops than the other contenders, or some of the other contenders at least. But it's still in the lead. That's all they really care about at this stage, because the number 31 car is going to need more fuel at its final stop than number 55 by 4 laps worth. And that's what's that, a couple of seconds, I guess, in fuel fill.
Well, yes.
Almost.
We assume, of course, that everybody's running their tanks down to nothing.
No,
and I don't think they are.
That's your point. They're not. At least they weren't on the first stint.
Correct.
The number 31 and number 01 in particular, they pitted a good bit earlier than they really needed to.
Hello, Tom.
And the number 55 car, that's the one that's absolutely split it down the middle in terms of its stops. Both stints. The first stint was 31 laps. The second one 32. But 31, of course, included an extra pace lap or an extra pace lap. So that's absolutely dead even stints for that number 55 car. The other guys just trying to try some way of stealing an advantage in a different way if they can't match it for outright pace. Although right now Felipe Nasr is absolutely hanging with Felipe Nasr.
I mean, it's what we talked about, isn't it, now, Michelin Countdown to Green, the Porsche keys to the race. That flexibility, well, that can be about when you take your stops, if the safety car comes out, are you in the window? But it also has to be that track position that you talked about, Jeremy, and where that pays off later in the race. And there'll be some very complicated calculations going on the pit boxes at the moment that we're not privy to. And who's got a new set of tyres left at the end? Is that going to work? Are you going to double stint your second guy in? Is that going to be a stint and a half? All of these things add or take away from the overall performance potential of the package that you've got, and those aren't necessarily if-then black and white calculations, are there? There's shades of grey all the way through, depending on what's happening on the racetrack.
Yeah, you talked about it at the beginning, being flexible on your strategies. And they will have certainly had a pretty firm plan of what they wanted to do in terms of tyres and fuel, in fact, during this race, particularly the Mazda that was out front. So they can kind of dictate their own strategy, but certainly they will adjust that if they feel that anybody else is gaining an advantage by employing a different strategy in the early stages of the 2 hour and 40-minute race. And right now, for the number 31 team, they ran third through the early stages, but then slipped to fifth with that incident. So they kind of needed to do something, try something else to get them back up on terms with the leaders again. You remember last year, number 31 car led a good portion of the race here, only to lose out at the final round of pit stops. I think that was because the which car won last year? The Penske car of Ricky Taylor and Castro Evans, they needed a little bit less fuel on that final stop. They were able to get out ahead to hold that advantage to the end.
And that comes down to what Jeremy was talking about, get your track position. This from James Brown, not that one, at IMSA Radio says, can we give some serious kudos to the pit lane camera operator? They get so close to the cars when they leave the boxes. Cool images, but I do wince every time. And that shit is Morrow.
That would be Morrow.
Yeah.
That would be Morrow being his lovely, crazy self.
Yeah, Morrow is a legend. We are very fortunate with our camera operators at IMSA that, number one, they're all brilliantly good at their job. Number two, they are all sports car enthusiasts and can talk for hours on end with real conviction and knowledge about what's going on, not just in IMSA but in other forms of motorsport all around the world. And the lads and lasses who do this are out in all the weather just like everybody else, and they are true pros and make our job so much easier. So thank you to all of our camera operators again this weekend and for the whole season. Help us tell the story, and if you do have access to the live and uninterrupted feed, then you are enjoying the same pictures that we get in the Haggerty Global Broadcast Centre that help us tell the story all the way around the track. Particularly thanks to Jake and the rest of the team at Charlotte, North Carolina, where remarkably technology allows all of the production to be done nowadays. And they're in contact with us in the Hagerty Global Broadcast Centre to let us know what's going on and anything that we might have been looking away from at the time. They make sure that we pick up one. It's much appreciated. It's been that way for many years, and we simply can't do our job, even on radio, without being able to see every corner of the track. So thank you one and all, and thanks very much to James for noticing that as well. And it's from Tim Fulbrook, while we've got a moment, at IMSA Radio. I've spent all of 2 hours trying to get my head around Mid-Ohio and iRacing, and I still don't understand how all these three classes get around cleanly. More often than not, Tim, you're absolutely right. All right, we're coming down to the last hour, 4.5 minutes away. Pit stops to come in LMP3 and GT Daytona, and they will be the final pit stops for those two. But here's how it stands after the penultimate pit stop. There's still one round of pit stops to go for the DPIs, and notwithstanding that they will be potentially at different times and potentially needing different amounts of VP Racing fuel, here's how they actually stand on the track at the moment. 3.5 seconds is the lead from Ollie Jarvis right now, in the lead of the motor race, with Felipe Nasser in second. So the 55 Mazda, the white, blue and red car from the 31 red and white car. I'm going to break off with that because Shea Adam has breaking news from GT Daytona, and it affects one of the cars that was at the sharp end of things earlier on for Heart of Racing team.
Mechanical black flag is being shown for Ross Gunn. That means he needs to pit imminently to fix something that's wrong with the car. Now, we haven't seen the car for a little while, so we don't know if maybe it's dropping fluid or if indeed it has a body part hanging off, but that is not good. We do have GTD final pit stops going on right now. Brian Sellers is in the pit lane for Paul Miller Racing. This should be a very quick amount of fuel and a new set of tires for him. Jeff Westphal is in for the Carbon Audi. And while we were talking about brains on the pit box, it's Lars Kiersing for Paul Miller Racing. And how about Steve Dinan for the Audi? Yeah. As Robbie Foley is into the pit lane, and Will Turner, the brain on that box, as well as Don Salama. So Robbie Foley into the pit box, and Bill Oberlin taking over that car. So that's 1 hour and 2 minutes to go for Bill Oberlin. Fuel, tires, and driver change, windshield tear off maybe. Zach Veach is in for the Lexus. This has triggered a slew of pit stops, but the first GTD car into the lane was the 66 Gradient Racing Acura. That's Mark Miller, who brought it in. A 59-second stop for Mark. Let's give you an idea on comparison of the stint times. Brian Sellers was in the pit lane for 49 seconds. Jeff Westphal, who pitted the same lap as him before, for 52.
Well, it's an advisory flag, as we found out at Sebring when the Camaro had it with Robin Liddell, that meatball flag. Problem out on the racetrack, and it's a big problem for Pat Long. Not very often that you see Pat off the circuit without being helped there, and the 16, the teal blue Porsche from Wright, is off the track, and it's not going anywhere. The rear wheels embedded in the gravel trap. He was side by side with I think that's the Allegra Motorsports car. Yeah, it is, and he's been sort of sandwiched and pushed by another Porsche. That was the FAF car there, and does more than 360. It's on the outside of the final corner. There's a bit of bumping and barging. This is what GT Racing can get to be. An opportunist manoeuvre down the inside by Lawrence Vantour turns another Porsche factory driver around, and this, Jeremy, is a full course caution. Now, who's this going to benefit?
Well, everybody except the leaders, basically, in each of the classes, because whatever advantage they had has now been completely erased.
And that was 10 seconds for Ollie Jarvis. As Felipe Nasser dived into the pits literally at the time that the yellow came out, on the same second. That 18 minutes and 11 seconds past the hour. Nasser, but that is the message that's come up first on the race control channel and then full course yellow. So it was called at 11 seconds past the 18th minute of the hour, and it looks to me as though NASA got in before that was called. We wait to hear if that is confirmed or whether they entered a closed pit. The standard operational procedure in IMSA is that they close the pit before they call the full course yellow. Shay, any news?
I've just had a massive realization, John. This is the championship leader sitting in the gravel, Patrick Long.
Yeah.
And the other reason that I just stumbled there, we have an answer on the Meyershank Racing Acura, why it's so far back. They're losing 2 seconds a pit stop because of a fueling issue. So that's why they've dropped back so far. So 2 days in a row that MSR cars have had pit stop issues in races. Oh, this is sickening.
Okay. Well, we need to dig into whether that 31 car got in before the pits were closed. They certainly got in before the full course yellow has come up on the race control channel for the track. But as I say, the operations normally means that they close the pits before that is called from race control. So that we will have to dig into, because if they've just got their pit stop done, or a pit stop done under yellow, that is an advantage. Although, Jeremy, how many people are going to come in? It's too early to come in, isn't it, to get to the end from here for the DPIs?
Absolutely it is, yeah. It's a slightly interesting decision, or a very interesting decision about number 31 team. I mean, they're now going to lose the track position. They're going to be the tail of the pack. Their final pit stop was going to be certainly longer than most of the other cars because they needed more fuel.
And now it won't be, it'll be shorter. They were halfway through that. Yeah, halfway through the field run.
Yeah.
Halfway through your field run, is that enough? I don't know.
I think so.
Well, I'm not going to second guess. There's some clever people on that wheeling wall as well. Pat Long is running again. The safety crew have done their job excellently as ever. The incident between, and this is a bit of a bingo card, the 16 Wright Porsche, the 9 Pfaff Porsche, and the other car that was involved there was the number 28 Allegra Motorsports Mercedes, or the AMG GT3, to give it its proper title. That is being reviewed at the moment. Right rear puncture for the Wright Porsche. Now, he will be allowed to come in to the pits at least to change that tyre under the emergency service regulations, because obviously it makes no sense at all for Pat to be trundling around with that tyre, potentially throwing off bits of expensive Michelin rubber. The big news is here, he has dropped down to 12th position. Now, we have got cars in the pits, but I haven't got a note that the pits have opened, but I suppose they must have, Shay.
Yep.
Okay, pits are open for DPI, so we have DPI.
And Lmp3, all the prototypes are allowed into the pit lane during this stop. So Oliver Jarvis is in. Fuel, tires, no, just fuel and a drink bottle change. It's fuel and tires for the 01 Chip Ganassi Racing Cadillac. That means that Rango van de Zandt is getting some sticker rubber. The car was up on the air shocks for the 10 Konica Minolta Acura, and they changed at least the right rear.
And it's got out ahead.
And it got out ahead, yeah. And a very quick stop as well from Meyershank Racing. They gained a couple of positions there on that stop. So they must have done a much, much shorter fuel stop, considering that they're having fuel rig issues.
I don't know. Jeremy and I were looking there at how long the guys had been out. And the 10 car had only been out for 11 laps. With Ricky Taylor on board, so it needed 6 laps less fuel than Ollie Jarvis's, so that's why it was stationary less time. I think they did 2 tyres, Shea.
They changed the rears from what I could see on the Acura, but the thing that flares up in my mind, 40 seconds in the pit lane for Ricky Taylor, 42 in the pit lane for Oliver Jarvis. That's not enough of a difference to tell me 6 laps worth of fuel.
Okay, something was going on there. They did have the fuel hose on until the very last moment, because they weren't doing anything else on Ollie's car. I think that's going to be pretty hard to call.
Well,
the contact between the two Porsches and the Allegra car involved sort of existentially in some respects.
Yeah.
It was there because it was being passed. I don't think there's any fault on the Allegra number 28, and the two Porsches were both trying to get by, Jeremy. That's a tough one to call.
And there was another car involved there as well. That was the Compass Acura that was making its way into the pit while that was happening.
Yes.
And in fact, I think that might have made contact with at least one of those other cars there. It's going to be really tricky to call that one. I completely agree with you.
This might be one of those situations where the call of no call actually is the best call that possibly could be called.
Yeah.
Reference there.
Yes. And into the pit lane for some more GTD callership.
And this is a pit stop for the Allegra Mercedes that we were anticipating. Daniel Morad, the starting driver, will be finishing this car as well, because Michael De Quesada drove for more than 45 minutes in the middle of the race. He has done his part. Fuel and tires for Morad, and fuel and, was it 4 tires for Lawrence? I'm seeing 4 Michelins being rolled back around. So let's hope that fast Porsche is okay after the contact with the right Porsche. I hate to see Porsche on Porsche contacts.
I hate to say car on car contact, to be honest. We're going to need a wee bit more yellow to get those DPIs to the end, because we're still over 53 minutes to go. The right Porsche, Pat Long, has limped that car back around, trying to do as little damage as possible to the right rear. He's done a cracking job in that respect, Shea, but he's dropped a lot of time. But he is at his pit box now.
Yeah, he finally made it in, and the team will want to assess how much damage there is, not only from the spin, the gravel, but also that Michelin that was not fully as it should have been for 2.258 and then some miles around the track to make it all the way back into the pit lane, because their pit box, being the points leader, is all the way at pit out as well. So it was a long trundle for Patrick, but fuel, tires, and a nice assessment of the car going on for Wright Motorsport.
So, Jeremy, crunching the numbers here, we get a reset, that is for sure. So we'll go back to green once the requisite wave-bys, pass-arounds, etc. have been done. And we're probably going to have 47, 48 minutes of running to do. That is really tight for all the DPIs who've just stopped. I think it's still a splash, isn't it?
Yeah, look, I mean, here's the interesting thing. If there's another caution, they're good to go. So that's why they've all come in now, because this is this is the only full course caution in the race. So it's a full safety period. We have all the wave rounds and pass rounds and all that stuff. Everybody can make their pit stops when is the appropriate time. So they kind of needed to come in, particularly because the 31 car came in there, because it came in again with everybody else. It was last, but because it had already just done its full fill, it's come out ahead of everybody else now. So the number 31 car leads the motor race, or will do when we get to the... we're not going to have a GTD cars. No, we're not, right. We're having the field split now, so the prototypes will move ahead of the GT cars for the restart. And number 31 having very, very fortunately snuck in ahead of everybody else, has taken massive advantage of that, done a really, really great job, and will lead the race. Number 10 also got ahead of the number 55 car during that round of pit stops, and that's as a result of the fact on the previous round of stops, number 10 car came in 6 laps after number 55, so needed a lot less fuel. So the Mazda, all of a sudden, having run pretty much the perfect race, finds itself in 3rd position. That's going to be really interesting. The number 55 car, talking of that same car, by the way, had turned its fastest lap just 3 laps before the caution period came out. It's still not the fastest car in the race. That was turned very early on by the 01 car of K-Mag, I guess, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. It was Special K, yeah.
set the fastest lap. So it's going to be fascinating restart here. 31.10, 55, 65, and 0.1. So a massive shuffle around during that pit stops in
and by the way, they're all on the lead lap. So what we were talking about before, when people were out of position, dropped back, looked like, oh no, we said no. Absolutely not. They're all still in the fight, and they all are, because there's now 6 seconds between them, of course, because the line is turned behind the safety car. Sorry, go ahead, Jeremy.
Yeah, no, it's in LMP3, the number 74 and 36 came in again just as the caution was coming out. So that's one of the reasons number 74 car has been able to hang on to his lead. Number 38 car, though, has not come out of that too badly. It's still in second place. So it's 74, 38, 54, 36 and 91. And they're all on the lead lap. Joe Barbosa, unfortunately, is a lap down number 33 car. So that's unfortunate for him. In GTD, those cars that have made their stops before the caution period are looking pretty good. 96 and 12 both made their stops beforehand, as did number 139 and 66. Although it hasn't panned out for number 66. I'm not quite sure why. That was okay. No, that was coming in again, wasn't it? Right as that incident took place for number 16. So yeah, curious.
That was Mark Miller.
An extra stop for that number 66 car.
And Catherine Legge stayed out, of course, to get the lap back for the number 88 hardpoint EBM Porsche. And as soon as she did, she whipped around and came back in. Shea, is that right?
Yeah, that's correct. Patrick Long has pulled off the circuit. I believe that's the keyhole. He's gone onto an escape road. He came out of the pit lane after they fixed the damage, did a couple of laps behind the safety car, but that looks like our yellow might be extended to try and recover him. The good news is he's on an access road, so it shouldn't be too difficult. But I've had a couple of people asking on Twitter about the 23 Aston Martin for Heart of Racing. I did just get an answer from Ian James. Thanks very much to Ian. The mechanical black flag, nothing wrong with the car. Ross's radio wasn't working, so they had to go to a preset backup, and now everything is A-OK and good to go to the end of this race. Ross is currently in the 3rd position.
Right, very good. Thank you, Ian, and everybody at Heart of Racing. Wish you well. The great initiative there with Heart of Racing. The Acura TLX Type S stays out, and just looked for a moment as though the safety car was going to come in, or the lights went out, and now it's back on again. Pat Long is moving again.
Down on the rest.
Yes, now. Indeed. Just looking at that the gradient car. Mark had done 32 laps and came in 9 laps ago. So that car hasn't been back in, Jeremy, for 9 laps.
Right.
Yeah. So that was at lap 60.
No, sorry, it was a 76 car. I'm sorry, I was confused with 66 and 76. It was a 76 that came in while that incident was taking place at the carousel.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry, I was just no. That's all right. I have I'm a bear of small brain, and I like to get everything ordered very nicely in my head before things go on. Well, Patrick Long is confident enough with the Wright Motorsport car. Whether that was a Control-Alt-Delete, I don't know, but he's confident enough to have continued round and get back on the end. This was the championship leading car in GTD and the singular championship leading driver with Pat Long, who took the 35 points for what do we call that if we don't call him Paul? He took the fastest lap award, the shootout, the point shootout. He took the 35 points in the point shootout. So there we go. And he's going to try and get to the end of the race and garner some more points for the championship.
he's not going to, unless there's another incident, he's not going to make up any ground. He's 3 laps behind everybody else. So just really unfortunate for that team as we're getting ready now for the restart. This is going to be a shootout for the this race.
TLX Type in the pit lane, and off goes the number 31 Whelan car, the red-white Felipe Nasr driven machine through turn 1, gets a really good restart. Ricky Taylor nowhere near being able to challenge, but Ollie Jarvis weaving around left and right in the 55 Mazda, so is Olivier Pla, but he's got company, and that company is Lloyd Duval in the Mustangs Hampton JDC Miller Cadillac, Acura Mazda, Acura Cadillac, your top 6 with Renger van der Zande in 6th position at the moment, watching these cars ahead, battling out, and he is right under the rear wing of Lloyd Duval. That leading 6 cars have been side by side for the lead to turn 6. That's an audacious manoeuvre, and it's a successful one for Ricky Taylor. What a move! Down at turn 6, you have to have the cooperation of the driver you're going by there. It's so easy to close the door and end in tragedy for both. But Ricky Taylor has got the Michelins up to temp and pressure so quickly on that Acura, and there was no real defence for Felipe Nasr by the time he realised that Taylor was there coming off the top of the hill at 5 and down to 6. The pass was done. Brilliant move by Ricky Taylor. Smart driving and still on the track for Felipe Nasr, now in 2nd position, Jeremy.
Yeah, brilliant move, opportunist move there. Look, there's either going to be massive fuel save going on here, particularly for that, well, for everybody really. 45 minutes, that stretch you get to the end from here without making another pit stop. Plus, of course, it's 5 or 6 laps of caution as well. So it's certainly going to be tight. Yeah, I think Ricky Taylor's gone, hey, look, if we have to make another stop, we have to make another stop. At least I've got the track position. And certainly, you know, the Acuras have gone longer than anybody else has in this race so far on fuel. So one has to, you know, they might be, one has to assume they are in better shape than the rest of the field. It's going to be really, really interesting now to see if anybody can stretch it, and if so, you know, can anybody else?
I think that yellow flag has taken us out of the opportunity for a new distance record at the front of the field. 125 laps was that record. Computer predicting 118 now. Now that will rise a little bit as we get back up to speed, but I'm not sure we'll get back close to that. I'll tell you in about 10 laps or so. This is going to be another one of those nail-biting races for DPI. Meantime, in GT Daytona, Turner Motorsport lead with the BMW M6 GT3. And when you're leading a motor race and things are going on behind you, you want experience. You want somebody who's been there, seen it, done it, designed and marketed the T-shirt before moving on to other media. And that man in this case is Bill Oberlin for Turner Motorsport. He leads it, heading up to the keyhole by about a second. Zach Veach at the other end of his career for Vasser Sullivan. Lexus RCF GT3 is chasing him down. They've won the last 3 races here. They're trying to make it 4 in a row. Lots of people have come to support them from Lexus and Toyota. Hello to David Wilson from Toyota Racing Developments, who I know is at the track here this weekend. They've managed to get all their schedules together, and as he said to me, the stars have aligned and we wanted to come and see the 2 new Supras and a potential 4th win for Lexus. Fantastic stuff as they are chasing down the BMW, and right behind them at a 2.5 seconds in 3rd place is Paul Miller Racing and Brian Sellers. And remember what Shea said earlier on, they had a spare set, an extra set of sticker Michelins, and I bet they're on that car now, and that will go to the end from here. That defensive driving, you never know, Jeremy. This is why I love endurance racing. You never know when the crucial part of the race is happening until we see the checkered flag. And Madison Snow earlier on doing all of that defending and saving a wee bit of fuel and trying to get through the race, and now his car's in 3rd position in a straight fight to the end. It might have been Madison that was the the key part of the race for Paul Miller Racing, and we just didn't really know it then. Brilliant.
Yeah, and taking advantage of those first tyres, perhaps to squeeze past number 23 Aston Martin, which has also lost the place to the number 76 Mario Farnbacher Compass Racing Acura up into 4th place now. It's Bill Oberlin who leads then for BMW. He's got about a second and a half over Zach Veach, who is trying to keep, Zach Veach who's going to try and keep that Lexus streak alive here at Mid-Ohio, when each of the last 3 years.
Brilliant stuff, isn't it? And behind Ross Gunn, Jeff Westphal's only another 0.8 of a second in that car barn by Peregrine Racing Audi. That's the number 39, the dark grey and bright grey car. Then Andy Lally in the number 44, the almost chalk coloured car with the red roundels on the side, the Magnus with Archangel. Lawrence Vantour, yep, he's there as well in the FAF, the plaid Porsche. That's the number 9. And then Mark Miller right in there in that flip colour, number 66 Gradient Racing Acura. And to round off the top 10, the Allegra Motorsports Mercedes is there as well, just another half a second back for Daniel Morad. And by the way, that incident involving Morad, Vantour and Long, no further action. It was declared a racing incident. I think that's probably, I wouldn't have liked to make that call. I never want a job in race control making those calls. Under 40 minutes to go, which is just about the length of a stint for the DPIs. But of course they've been out for a wee while already now, albeit the first few laps of this stint under yellow flag. And there will be some frantic back and forth, I think, at the moment between the DPI teams and drivers. Everybody's been out for 10 laps and everybody had the first 4 laps behind the Acura, behind the Honda, excuse me, safety car. And we have got 29 laps to go, or thereabouts. So that's going to make it a 39 lap stint. Even with those 4 laps of safety car, that is awfully tight. If somebody decides to push hard here, Jeremy, and everybody has to push hard, surely they've got to have a splash at the end of this.
Yeah, I would certainly think so. I mean, the longest stint anybody has done was for 36 laps by that number 10 car. That's one of the reasons it's in the lead right now, because it needed less fuel at its last stop than some of these other contenders. But it's going to be a fascinating race. I really doubt they can stretch it. They will be hoping for another full course caution. Last lap time 13.2 for the leaders. They were doing, kind of 12s, certainly 12s, fairly comfortably if they had clear track. Very often up in the race up until now. The fastest lap of the race will be 12.188, which is a new lap record by Kevin Magnussen. That was way back on lap 11. It is a new lap record, then eclipses the mark set by Juan Pablo Montoya, the 12.2 last year.
Leaders are together, Jeremy, and fighting their way through traffic. They just cleared that through turn number 9 on the Thunder Valley, and it's target acquired for Felipe Nasser. I love the fact that even with the DPIs, and I know they're all based on LMP2 chassis and will continue to be based on the new generation LMP2 chassis, but the Cadillac has a slightly different personality, if you want to call it that, set of characteristics than the Acura. The Acura clearly warmed up its Michelin tyres very quickly, and that was used to good effect by Ricky Taylor. But now, in the middle of the stint, as we're getting into running, the Cadillac is coming back, and it's all starting to even out. And then we'll find at the end who's got the right car at the end. And I'm not entirely certain which of those 2 manufacturers it is, to be honest. And I can't wait to find out in another 36 minutes or so.
Agreed.
It's magnificent stuff at the moment. These 2 are right on it. Shea Adam, what do you have for this VP Racing Fuel Pit and Paddock report?
Or if it's the other manufacturer that's right behind them, don't count out Mazda yet, John. Bad news for Andretti racing fans. The Andretti Autosport number 36 machine has gone back to the garage with the problem. That car is not expected to come back out before the end of the race.
It was a good run for them as well in their debut in the championship. They'll be disappointed.
Yeah. Yeah, I wonder why they seem to be dropping back a little bit. Oliver Askew dropping back a little bit from Colin Brown since we went back to green. I was wondering why. He's kind of holding up Dylan Murray there. But Dylan Murray now has got a clean track. He's going to try and track down Colin Brown, which is what he was doing beforehand, actually. But Felipe Fraga, he's got a couple of second lead in number 74 car for Riley Motorsports. And Rasmussen in second place, Colin Brown in third, a similar margin back. And this battle for the lead is well and truly on here between Ricky Taylor and Felipe Nasser.
And Nasser's got a wee bit of a run, but unfortunately there's no way to take advantage of it as they go past Andy Lally in the NSX. Goes to the outside at turn 4, then tries to come back. Mark Miller right ahead of them, the Gradient NSX. He's trying to keep up with Lawrence Vanter in the FAF Porsche that is the car right ahead of them through turn 6, up over the rise at turn 7. Side by side for Nasser and Mark Miller. Miller stays out of the way, does a good job. He can't do anything but be on the racing line at this point. And here comes the Mazda. The Mazda's in there as well. Ollie Jarvis has got that car up to pace. We're going to have the top 3 together here, Jeremy. There's a second between them at the moment. I suspect that once Ollie clears this traffic, he's going to be as quick as the 2 leaders. He might even be able to close them down a little bit. This is starting to build, and we've still got 34 minutes of it to go.
Yeah, and Jarvis was really held up by traffic there on that lap as they came across that.
Oh, so is the leader. Here's the opportunity for Nasser. It was the Aston Martin that unwittingly got in the way as they go up to the keyhole. This time around, inside the Compass NSX. Nearly said the wrong manufacturer there that I always relate to Compass. Out of the keyhole and down the hill, it's As You Were. Sorry, Jeremy, go ahead. Jarvis is going to have to do a bit more work now.
Yeah, and I reckon these guys, they're going to be 2 or 3 laps short here. I don't see how they can stretch it to the end from here. So if that's the case, do you take the bull by the horn, so to speak, and come in and make your stop now, trying to get out in clear air and turn some faster laps without any traffic so you can leapfrog these other guys? Or do you hope there's going to be some sort of caution between now and the end of the race? Fascinating stuff. Lots of decisions to be made on pit lane, John. Well,
yeah, and we talked about this in our Porsche Keys to the race. You've got to be flexible. This is probably not how everybody planned the race. Once it's like a live broadcast. You can't write a script for anything, can you? It's exactly the same in motor racing. 33 minutes to go as they cross the finish line on the pit straight this time around. Everybody is going to have to react to what's going on. Now, the 2 leaders are having a cracking scrap. 3rd is the Mazda. 4th is the Cadillac Jim Ganassi Racing, Reiner van der Zande. He'll be enjoying himself at the moment, carving through traffic. Everybody trying to work out what the best thing to do is. Does someone like Plat or Duval, who's a little bit further back, Duval's 5 seconds, Plat's 5 seconds off the leading 4, do they roll the dice and come in for a splash of fuel that means that they can go full rich to the end? Now, they'll get caught if there's a safety car, but
position to Reiner van der Zande, so he's lost some
exactly so. Well, we know that 0-1 car's quick. It was Magnussen that put the fastest lap in earlier on, and there's been people close to it, Jeremy. They're all within tenths of each other. 12-1 was the fastest lap. We've got 12-3s, 12-4s, 12-3s for all of the top category cars. But the fact that K-Mag put the 12-1 in, with no disrespect to Kevin, he's not the most experienced IMSA DPI driver here this weekend in that car. So there's pace in that Chip Ganassi car, no doubt in my mind.
Yeah, agreed. Absolutely right. And he's made a pass there. They're going to be right up behind Oliver Jarvis. He's chasing after Oliver Jarvis. You see all 4 cars on the same shot as they head down the back straight at full speed here, in excess of 175 miles an hour or so.
It's effortless for these DPIs. They really look well sorted here. Yes, you're absolutely right, Jeremy. But these DPI cars, we talked about it in qualifying. I compare the times that we were talking about in qualifying to what you were saying about the race lap record from the LMS days, and you look at the amount of technology in these cars compared to the amount of horsepower, technology and cubic euros that were being spent on the Audis and the Peugeots and the Porsches back in the day, and they are matching those lap times, albeit in qualifying on a clear track. But we've been down to a 12.1 here. That is very, very quick indeed, and they're providing great entertainment. I think this is awesome stuff. And these cars, based on an LMP2, let's not forget, but with allowed suspension modifications, different engines, and crucially, different aero as well. Actually, probably the suspension is the most important thing around the US tracks in particular. They handle the vagaries of places like Mid-Ohio, which is an old school track. They handle it so well, the drivers absolutely love them because they can drive the wheels off them, Jeremy, and that's what I want to see.
The 23 car's got past 76, hasn't it, on this lap? So
that's the Aston Martin. Yeah,
Roscoe in the Aston Martin ahead of Mario Farbacher there, and right behind the two of them is Laurens Vanthoor in the number 9 Pfaff Racing Porsche. That's the car one last time out, and will be poised here with the problem for the number. It probably won't take the championship. We will do with this new point system, won't it? It's actually the Aston Martin is poised to take the championship lead potentially.
Wow!
It came in 51 points behind. Sounds like a heck of a lot with this new
350 points for a win.
Delete word point system. In here with 350 points for the win. I think potentially the Aston Martin could lead here with points lead. It's going to be awfully close because the Porsche came in at only 11 points behind it, so that's basically one position.
Hello to Christoph B on IMSA Radio. He's tweeted in, he says, you guys talking about the fuel. At the moment, the fuel guys on the pit lane are lining up shot glasses on the TPI pit wall. You might not be wrong there, Christoph. It's going to be very, very quick, and it will be timed pit stops. There won't be time to put tyres on, so you're going to have to take the tyres to the end as Laurens Vanthoor goes very wide indeed at turn 1 and takes out one of the WeatherTech boards there. In fact, he was following the line of the Compass Racing NSX, and right in behind the Carbahn car as well, the Audi Tyre Centre sponsored machine got a windscreen full of rubbish. I wondered why Laurens had wiped his windscreen. I noticed that he'd used his windscreen wiper. There must have been so much dirt on that car windscreen that he couldn't see anything, so it's the last thing you ever want to do in a racing car is use your wiper. Even when it's raining, you wait as long as possible because you know it's just going to make a greasy, horrible mess when you first start to wipe it. But there was so much dust and dirt there that Laurens had to use the single wiper on the Pfaff Porsche. He lives to fight another day. He's up to 6th position, Westphal behind him, then Mark Miller for Gradient Racing just 6/10 behind, and he's been setting that car's fastest lap after fastest lap. New car to that team. They've had Acuras before, but that is a new chassis, if you will, to that team, and at the moment they're sitting in 8th position and pulling away for Andy Lally in the Magnus Acura. Those two cars came to those two teams from Michael Shank Racing from MSR at the end of last season. Both of those cars with championship winning pedigree. So in the battle of those two former MSR cars at the moment, it's Gradient who are doing the job. Front of GTD, Oberlin by 4 seconds, has broken the toe from Zach Beach. It's going to take something very special for Lexus to get their 4th consecutive victory. Paul Miller trying to get in there. Brian Sellers, Paul Miller Racing in the Lamborghini, is the best non-front engined car, but Bill Oberlin has turned on the style at the front of GTD and the pace, Jeremy.
Brilliant stuff, yeah, he really has. He's used all his experience there. He's pulled out 4.5 seconds over Zach Beach, has Bill Oberlin in that leading Turbo Sport BMW, looking for win number 63, top line in his career of sports car racing in North America. He already holds the record, took that by winning last year at Charlotte. over Scott Pruitt, and he's looking to extend that advantage here. But how's the Formula 1 car kind of on its own there? No, they're all stretched out. The Mazda's stretched back. I'm surprised that somebody isn't coming in to make a pit stop early on here, relatively early.
Duval's 12 seconds away from the lead at the moment, and 6 seconds back from 5th in that Mustang sampling car. If they've got any fuel woes now, if they come into the pits in that number 5 car, where are they going to come out? No, they've got time to get in and out before the Turner Motorsport BMW comes around, and they will get out into clear air. I think it's a good shot for them, if they've got any fuel concerns at the moment, to come in, splash the fuel and get straight back out again. And that might, of course, set off, Jeremy, the domino effect, of course.
Yeah, but are they trying to, is somebody here just trying to stretch it? I think it's
14-2 last time around for Duval.
Yeah, I mean, the track's in fairly good shape. Just a few laps ago in LMP3, Dylan Murray set the fastest lap of the race in LMP3 in column 91, having the number 36 car pulled out of the way with its problem, unfortunately, for the Andretti Autosport team. Dylan Murray has closed the gap, actually, to Colin Brown. It was 4 seconds from Colin Brown to Dylan Murray. It's now just about 1.5 seconds. So Dylan Murray is making good pace there. Just looking at the leader's pace, that's what I was looking at. The fastest laps of the race had been set in LMP3, but the leaders, they're all doing 13s now, having done 12s early in the race.
Tell you who else is going to be tight at the end of the race, notwithstanding that there was some full course yellow at the beginning of it. All the GTDs are going to be tight as well, Jeremy. They've been doing round about 56, 57 minutes. They've been out at the moment for 38 minutes, and we've got 24 minutes to go. Do the arithmetic. Now, yes, there's some yellow in that, but I don't think you can go. I don't think you can go full rich though to the end.
No, I think actually I just got a note from the Mazda team. I reckon they're 2 or 3 laps short.
Yeah,
I think getting to the end, and whether the Acuras can stretch it, I think that's probably the only car that might be able to. Just look at the balance performance coming into this weekend. There were a couple of minor tweaks. 1 litre fuel tank size less for the Acura and the Cadillac. So their fuel tank has been reduced fractionally by comparison with the Mazda coming into this weekend. There's a big spin. Was that Colin Brown?
I was not looking. Yes, it was Colin Brown who's gone off at the carousel. Now let's see if he can get that car back. There's some damage. He's not far away from the pit entry. He stayed out. Okay, that's fine. Let's take a quick breath at the moment as Shea Adam has this VP Racing Fuel pit and paddock report.
The star of the opening of the race was Harry Tinknell in the 55 Mazda, and he was incredible out there. I think we've actually lost him for the time being, John. I'll let you know if we get him back.
Okay, thank you, Shea. That's traditional, isn't it? As soon as you try to talk to somebody, they're called away to do something else when we try to talk to him. At IMSA Radio, hashtag Michelin PRT. And the show at the end of the race is driven by you. Points are rising, questions, etc. 22 minutes to go to the end of the race. Mazda coming under pressure now, Jeremy, from the Chip Ganassi Cadillac down at turn 4 at the moment. The 2 lighter coloured car in traffic.
Right, and the number 60 car is a couple of GTD cars behind it, behind that little battle as well. Side by side heading over the crest there. This is great stuff. In LMP3, very briefly, as the number 01 cars got past number 55, yeah, they were side by side heading out of 6th. So now up into 3rd position with Rega van der Zande in the 0-1 car for Cadillac Chip Ganassi Racing, I think.
Van der Zande's had a great stint here, and he's really building on a great job. Van der Zande through and into third position. That's a great run, building on what was to be frustrating for Kevin Magnussen. Broke ranks at the start and cost them a drive through. Now ultimately that's not hurt them too much. Round the outside at turn 6 and then toughing it out at turn 7 and over the brow. That's a big boy manoeuvre from Renger van der Zande. Ollie Jarvis just going back one position. Shea Adam, VP Racing Fuel Pit and Paddock report.
Well, let's try this again. The star of the opening stint was Harry Tinknell. Harry in the Mazda. It's been going pretty well for you guys so far, dropping back a little bit. Can't make it on fuel, but what are you guys expecting for the end of this one?
Yeah, it's a crazy situation, really. I think they kind of really screwed us, unfortunately, but it was real fun opening 2 stints. I was just have put all my focus into just getting into the lead off the pole and then just getting my head down and really just giving it hell. Lena was on the radio almost every lap, just telling me keep digging, keep pushing, and I was just driving through the traffic as hard as I could, to be honest. It was really fun out there, and yeah, this has just completely changed the context of the race. I think everyone's saving like crazy now. So the 01 is either better on fuel, going on a more aggressive strategy, but let's see how it all pans out at the end. It's going to be exciting for sure.
The other thing to keep in mind, Harry, is that when the weekend began, you were only 8 points behind the DPI championship lead. Of course, that got cut down yesterday with your fantastic pole and coming away with the maximum points. So you guys have to keep that in the back of your mind too, don't you?
Yeah, we've been ultra consistent in the first couple of races, and yeah, to get the pole yesterday and be running up front is exactly what we need for the championship. Still a long way to go. But yeah, Ollie's doing a great job in the car, doing everything he can, and we have a fantastic team around us. I think a lot was made of the fact that even though we're down to 1 car this year, really the personnel involved is the same, so we almost have double the capacity of engineering and mechanicking capabilities that we did last year. So I think we're really seeing improvements in every little area. And now, you know, Multimatic Mazda Motorsports, it's kind of 100 things we can do 1% better rather than the big issues that we've had in the past. And I think we're showing we can really fight for the championship this year, and I really believe in this team, so it's a great pleasure to be a part of.
So the pit stops have been good today, the driving has been good. What's the missing piece? Luck?
Right now it looks like a little bit of luck, yeah, but let's see how it pans out. Still a long way to go, and we'll turns to come, see who can eke every bit of fuel mileage out of the cars. You should be seeing the tow truck coming and picking up or towing back a few cars into victory lane. We'll have to wait and see, but it's all going to be exciting.
Things are tied up in the Hagerty Global Broadcast Centre. Great stints, mate. Really enjoyed watching that. Was there a difference? Was the car changing through the stint? You got a great start, sort of pulled away, then they sort of caught you back up again, and then you managed to get a bit more before the end of both the stints. Or was that just how the traffic falls? And I think we've lost Harry there. So thank you to Harry Tinknell, who was joining us from behind the paddock. Always difficult to do this when we're stretching the technology here and there, but thank you to Harry for that great insight. Thank you to Shea for that VP Racing Fuel Pit and Paddock report. Into the last 16 minutes then. 90.3 FM around the circuit, XM392 around the world on IMSARadio.com in audio and in vision as well. If you're in a territory that does not have coverage in the US, of course, you're not already tuned in, then the last 16 minutes with our colleagues at NBC SN. So it's now all about the fuel numbers, Jeremy. And
yes, GTD is no problem. Of course, they can go. They can get to the end quite comfortably, as can LMP3 cars. But the DPIs not so much. And there's a frantic fuel saving going on out there right now. I guess they're going to try and stretch it to the end, but
it'll be impressive, Jeremy. We've seen it here before. You can't save fuel here before. I remember in the LMS race when the old Audi R8s, the open top FSI cars, not even the diesels, and we were waiting and waiting and waiting for the pit stop. They can't make it, they can't make it, they can't make it, and they did. I mean, they must have been tickling the throttle at the end, but you can't save fuel here.
You can, but you can also, the cars can go a couple of laps, a couple of seconds a lap quicker. And when they had sort of 20 odd laps to go, you can come in, make your stop, get out, and if you can go 2 seconds a lap quicker than everybody else, you can win the race on pace alone. So I'm surprised no one's kind of tried that. But hey, look, it's easier said than done, isn't it?
It's a big amount of. I'm hearing from a lot of people at the track who are trackside and closer to the racetrack than we are, and who are watching and listening carefully to Loic Duval. And they are tweeting at IMSARadio.com, massive lift and coast. I'm hearing from a few people around at the moment. Also, I suppose there'll be people who are watching the onboards as well that are available at IMSA.tv. So there are opportunities, but I tell you what, Jeremy, everybody's rolling the dice at the front of the field at the moment. I'm really surprised somebody hasn't popped in. There's still the opportunity for that Mustang sampling car to drop into the pits, although the problem now is they've got the 74 Ranch Riley LMP3 is where they would about come back out again. They've lost the opportunity to get back out in clear air.
Yeah, the P3 cars are probably not going to be held up by too much. I think the pace advantage in the places that's critical is good enough, I think. But we're now within 30 minutes ago, so we're within 10 laps at the end of the race. But 20 laps ago, if you look at the last lap time by Loic Duval, it was a 14.3. His best lap in the race was a 12.6. In qualifying yesterday, they were in the 10s. That's a chunk of time you're giving up, and as you say, you're losing about 30 seconds by making the pit stop here. Surprised no one's taking the gamble, going for it.
Yeah, Christoph B just asking what's the delta through the pit lane. Is it 24 seconds? Did we time that earlier in the weekend, Shane? 24, 25 seconds? A little bit more than that?
It's between 23 and 24, depending on your pit lane speed limiter.
Because nobody's got them spot on.
So 50 laps, that's a second and a half, and you can make that up.
Yeah, I agree. And if you're sitting in sixth, if you're the Mustang sampling car, you've got to be really, really sure that you can make the end, because they've now dropped.
And that the others can't.
Yeah, they've now dropped 24 seconds behind the leader. That's another 10 seconds that they have dropped to the leader. Now, maybe they're not thinking about the leader, maybe they're thinking about the other Cadillacs, because they will know better what their Cadillacs can do. But even so, the opportunity for them, they were in sixth, they would be in sixth. They're not going to be any further back, but they could potentially pull something off. It's risk versus reward, but I just think you're that far back, you might roll the dice. NASA with Van der Zande and Ricky Taylor. NASA with Ricky Taylor now ahead of him. He's closed back down again within just about half a second, Jeremy. First and second.
Yeah, he has. That's right. It was pretty stagnant for quite a long time, around about a second and a half between 1.2 and 1.5. Less than just over half a second last time around to complete lap 12. And lap time for the leader that last time was 14.2, so he had some traffic to contend with. They're all once again working their way through the GTD cars one more time. And in GTD, by the way, big battle developing for second position. Zach Beach still holds it, but what was an advantage of, actually not very much, is now even less, I think, over Brian Sellers in third place with Ross Gunn got hot on his heels as well in fourth. And then behind Bosch Guns, a bit of a gap back to Mario Farnbacher and pretty much the rest of the field in GTD.
Yeah, and we've got, 10.5 minutes to go. The checkered flag comes out, ends the race, but not the conversation. This has been interesting. Long time since we've been IMSA WeatherTech SportsCar Championship racing. Time for you to have your say at the end of this on RS2 IMSA Radio. It is Michelin Post-Race Tech with you driving the editorial content. You tell us what you want to talk about. You ask the questions to which you want answers. It's at IMSA Radio, hashtag MichelinPRT. You can listen to that on RS2 IMSA Radio. Michelin Post-Race Tech then, after the checkered flag. Trying to get some more interviews as well with some of the drivers to answer some of your questions. 9.5 minutes to go. Bill Oberlin by 4.8 seconds in GTD from Zach Veach for Vassie Sullivan's Lexus. BMW, Lexus, Lamborghini just another 6/10 further back. Ross Gunn another 6/10 further back in the Aston. Then a bit of a gap back to Super Mario Farnbacher, 8 seconds, but he's got Lawrence Van Teur right with him. And he is battling very hard indeed. And Jeremy, this is going to be, I still think this is tight for DPI at the end.
Yep.
2 laps, was it 2 laps we said, Shea, that the Mazda was going to be short?
2 to 3 is what I've been told for the Mazda, the Acura leading the way, and the Cadillac in second. Now, the thing that I'm perplexed about, John, is I mentioned to Harry Tinknell on the phone that Harry and Ollie in the Mazda, and Ricky Taylor and Philippe Albuquerque very much embroiled at the head of this DPI championship. But coming into the event in last place in points were Felipe Nasser and Pipo Durrani. They're currently in second. If they think they're going to be close on fuel, why not chance it? If you come home 6th, you're not losing any points in the championship. At least you're not losing anything you haven't already lost.
Yeah, absolutely agree. Absolutely agree. And there's something about this track that just gives us good racing. 8 minutes to go now. Keep an eye on that clock. Keep an eye on the laps that are being clocked up and ticked off by the leaders at the front of the field. They're already on their 36th lap of this stint, albeit with, 4 laps of yellow at the beginning? Yeah, 4 laps of safety car at the beginning. Was it? Right, okay. Yeah, actually.
On lap 80, went green after 85.
Yeah. Yeah, okay, and there was 2 before they came in, but that was the previous stint, of course, so it doesn't affect the amount of fuel they've got in now. Everybody's in the same boat, Jeremy. There's no tactics now because everybody put the fuel in at the same time. So now it's who's got the right fuel map, who's got the right fuel numbers, and who trusts the drivers to do the lift and coasting. And right at the moment, Ricky Taylor at the front of the field, you'd take his position because he's now got 2.2 seconds. It was 6/10 of a second the last time I looked.
Yeah, I mean, much of the reason for that is who hits traffic where, certainly. They just worked their way past Jar Barbosa, number 33 car, who's a lap down to the rest of the field in LMP3. We haven't seen much of the LMP3 cars, but the top 3 are each separated by around about 4 seconds, and have been now for a fair amount of time. Actually, Rasmus Lind did get within 2 seconds of Felipe Fraga about 7 or 8 laps ago, but Fraga, the Brazilian, has extended that again. It's now 4.2 seconds between first and second. So Riley Motorsports ahead of Performance Tech Motorsports. Riley Motorsports in third place, also Dylan Murray. He made some grounds towards catching that group, but now seems to be settling back into a similar pace, and those top 3 pretty much equidistant. Colin Brown with that spin, a fairly distant 4th now. in LMP3. So it looks like that Core Autosport streak is going to continue. As Shane was telling us earlier on, that team has never won here at Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. The best they've finished is a second place. That was back in 2012. But even that wasn't Colin Brown and John Bennett. In fact, it was Alex Popov and Ryan DeYell who finished in second place in the second core car, 9 years ago.
Lock up on the right front for Felipe Nasr going into the keyhole in the number 31 car. Clear track for the better part of this lap for Ricky Taylor. A 14.4 last time around. Let's see what he does with fewer cars in front of him, and let's see what sort of pace of people are setting in the DPIs. It was a 17 last time around for Ollie Jarvis, and that means Ollie Pla has closed him right down. He's followed that up with a 13.8 to Ollie Pla's 14.6, so he has responded a little bit, but that is a battle now between the two Olivers for 4th and 5th position. The Mazda number 55, the black and pink MSR Kurban Agajanian number 60 Acura, and they are having a battle. It's not quite the backwards cycling race, Jeremy, but there's definitely some serious fuel saving going on as we've still got... Oh, and into the pit! Pla can't make it, and the first to blink is the number 60, Shea Adam.
Well, I was about to say, this continues another streak. Jeremy pointed out the Core Autosport, but MSR has never won at their own track, Mid-Ohio. Taking the chance, taking the leap first, 6 seconds worth of fuel to Olivier Pla with 4 minutes to go on the clock. If everyone else runs out of fuel, this could be Meyer-Shank Racing's day.
Well,
let's rely on everybody else running out of fuel. Everybody else running out of fuel. I mean, why didn't they make this stop earlier on and pursue the strategy, or somebody didn't do that? I'm just really surprised.
Me too.
I would have thought you're not going to hope that everybody else runs out of fuel. In my mind, isn't really a strategy.
Well, they've come out with a bit of a gap. They're going to catch the Heart of Racing Aston first, and he's in a gaggle of cars. Of course, Ross Gunn battling with Brian Sellers.
That's not really relevant though, where they are.
Not with 3.5 minutes.
No, they're down the road.
Yeah, not with 3.5 minutes to go. I'm with you, Jeremy. I just don't understand that. Where is the leader IMSA coming up to the keyhole with 3 minutes to go? A 14.7 again last time around for Ricky Taylor, as he is now on his 40th lap of this stint. Again, remember, with some yellow flag laps. There's a lot of people who I'm not sure know, Jeremy, on the pit lane at the moment. All of the technology you've got to hope that you can pick up the last litre of fuel to get you home. Just unbelievable stuff. And the lead at the front of the field back down to 1.3 seconds. Even if you slow off at this point, you might still be giving up a good position. This is still edge of the seat stuff.
Yeah, and it's not going to be white flag this time, John. It'll be white flag next time. So it'll be, you've got 2 complete laps to go from here. There's 2 minutes and 15 seconds remaining. So it's 2 more laps they've got to do, these guys.
Oh my goodness me. Edge of the seat stuff. It was all going so very well for so many of the teams. And into the pits for Renger van der Zande. It's another Cadillac. The 0-1 in, Shea Adam.
So we've had an Acura, we've had a Cadillac. We only have 1 Mazda out on track. We have another Acura out there and 2 more Cadillacs running around. But I'm curious to see how much fuel they put in that Chip Ganassi Racing Cadillac, because it should be less than 6 seconds worth. That's how much they put in Pla, and indeed it is.
It's 2 laps. They needed 2 laps. Jarvis and the Mazda team thought they were 2 laps short. There's 1.5 laps to go, so they've done better than what their calculation stands. 1:14.8 by the first 2 last time around. Ollie Jarvis a 14.5. He's back into 3rd position and on the podium for Mazda. It will be white flag this time around. There is another 2.4 miles or thereabouts when they pass the pit straight this time. Ricky Taylor comes through. There's tension on the pit wall at Conningham and Alta Racing. Now, if there's anything left for Nasser, he's got to use it now. Wayne Taylor does not know. He does not know. There's heads in hands on the pit wall at the moment. And here comes Nasser. Nasser's pushing. Nasser thinks he's got an opportunity here. He goes a wee bit wide into the keyhole. Down the hill now. Engines still seem to be running well. Down into turn 4. Traffic ahead. They've got an LMP3. It's the leading LMP3, Felipe Fraga in the Riley Motorsports. They're going to catch him in a moment or two. There's an opportunity. He's right there. Nasser is right there. The black and blue car is the leader. The red and white is in second, and they've got traffic, including the hardpoint EBM car. Turn 9, they're side by side for a moment as they come through the traffic. There's a decent run for both of them here. And there's an opportunity at the carousel for the final time. Nasser looks down the inside, tries to position the car. Can't get it up the inside. Absolutely extraordinary run to the line. It's going to be Acura. Acura again at Mid-Ohio. And Conningham and Alta win it by the finest of margins. 0.3 of a second at the end. The fuel numbers were right. Might have been a guess, but they were right. They've got there. Jarvis comes through in third for Mazda Motorsports after a wonderful run by Harry Tinknell. And we're still waiting for the rest of the cars to come through. It's Riley Motorsports 74 from Performance Tech, 38 in the Battle of the Ligiers in LMP3. And the second Riley car, Dylan Murray, will bring that home on the podium as well. All of the prototypes have got to the end, so it's Mustang sampling from Cadillac, Chip Ganassi from Meyershank Racing, but 40 seconds back from MSR in that Acura. Why didn't they pit earlier? My goodness me. And in GTD, Bill Oberlin crosses the line. Robbie Foley started the Turner Motorsports car. It'll be an all-tackle Monday for Will Turner and the team. That's how they celebrate, and they break the stranglehold of Lexus. Vassar Sullivan second with the 12 car. Heart of Racing in third at the end, just ahead of Compass and Mario Farnbacher. Then Faf, then Carbon. What happened to... Check that. My apologies. My apologies. Third place for Brian Sellers and Madison Snow, Paul Miller Racing, as they come through on the podium. And then it was Ross Gunn, Farnbacher for Compass, Faf, Carbon, Gradient in 8th, Magnus Allegra for the top 10. Shea Adam, let's go down to the drivers who have, some of the drivers who have finished the race for this VP Racing pit and paddock report after an extraordinary end to a brilliant race. Who have you got?
Gar Robinson, race winner at the Rolex 24 Hours of Daytona, pole winner for the first time yesterday, and now race winner at Mid-Ohio. How good does it feel to have that next to your name?
Well, phone signal letting us down a wee bit. Not hearing Gar there from the paddock, but they are celebrating for that Ranch 74 sponsored Riley car. We'll give him another go in a second. Jeremy Shaw, well, that was a finish of a race. That was a finish of a race. I'm not sure that Wayne Taylor knew whether that car would get to the line or not.
Yeah, right. There was certainly a lot of his fingernails. They're usually fairly well bitten, I think. Well, today they would be not much left of them at all. That really was a nail biter for that team. But brilliantly judged. A great drive, great first stint by Philip Albuquerque, and then Ricky Taylor. He did the job again. 3 wins in 4 years here for Ricky Taylor. Fantastic performance. He made an opportunist pass at the restart on Felipe Nasser and held him off the rest of the way. I mean, once again, then the number 31 car for the second year running has to play second fiddle to Ricky Taylor. That's going to be frustrating, particularly by this margin, 0.368 of a second. That's all there was between them.
That is just extraordinary stuff. We will try and get some driver interviews. Michelin post-race tech coming. Hashtag Michelin PRT on RS2. And with a bit of luck, we'll try and get the LMP3 winner back on the line. Gar Robinson is waiting for us. Let's give it another go, Shay.
Let's see if we can get Gar this time. I know the cell signal is very spotty in Mid-Ohio, but Gar Robinson, race winner at Mid-Ohio. That opening stint, you actually got to battle a bit. How much fun was this race?
Oh man, it's this place is such a chess match. I mean, it's you have multi-class cars. The multi-class racing is just incredible. But this has always been a pretty good track for me. It was my first win back in the Trans Am days, my first pro win, and happy for it to be. And you were there, so we definitely miss you. We need you to come back. But yeah, well, I'm happy that Felipe's finally with us, and I think we'll have a pretty good showing for the rest of the year.
Yeah, this should give you the championship lead, just doing a quick little bit of math here. But you mentioned Felipe. How nice was it to have him as your full season co-driver finally in the car?
It's awesome. I mean, my co-drivers for the 24 hours and for the 12 hours were incredible. But it's nice to finally have what we had going for as a plan. But yeah, we're just really excited, and today's a good showing for him. His first IMSA race, first IMSA race with me. It's
Oh, and I think we've lost him again there. Gar, thank you. If you can still listen to, if you're still hearing us, Gar Robinson, thank you very, very much indeed. The technology and the cell phone signal not helping us out at Mid-Ohio at the moment. Obviously not able to get there in person to speak to them due to the IMSA protocols around the paddock. Jeremy, you'll have been doing a little bit of arithmetic there. How are we standing on the championship?
Yeah, I'm still working on GTD. I hate these extra numbers in there. It really messes me up. But in the overall ranks, Oliver Jarvis, Ricky Taylor and Philip Albuquerque, they came in here as leaders in any case. So this victory, they will extend their lead now. They have 1,070 points after 3 races. Isn't that ridiculous? Over 1,015, I reckon, for Oliver Jarvis and Harry Tinknell. So the gap extended from 5 points as it was at the beginning of the weekend, now out to 55. In third position on 9:51, Tristan Vautier and Loic Duval, leaping all the way up into 4th place with the 2nd place finish today on 9:18 will be Nazar and Durrani, 4 points ahead of Dane Cameron and Olivier Pla. In LMP3, as Shay said, Gar Robinson will move from 4th position into the lead on 7:15, ahead of John Bennett and Colin Brown on 6:90, and then Jim Cox and Dylan Murray on 6:72. Working on GTD.
All right, good stuff, good stuff. Listen, we've had a great time. Thank you very much indeed to everybody at Mid-Ohio, particularly to Tyler Norling and the IMSA Racing crew, to John and the rest of the PA voices. It's always wonderful for you to share your airwaves with us on 90.3 FM. The formalities are about to get underway, so we'll step away for those of you at the track side at the moment, and also on IMSA TV. We'll continue IMSARadio.com, RS2 and an XM392. They'll stay with us too for Michelin Post Race Tech, which comes next. What a great race. What a great race at Mid-Ohio.